Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Strength Hammer review of Broken Realms Morathi, the best and only book you need to care about in the Broken Realms because it has Morathi on it. Today, we have the usual crew. We got Neil.
Hey now.
Dave.
Clever soundbite.
Matt.
Back it off, yo.
Matt, can we have a word from our sponsor?
Yeah, we got Brush for Hire coming on in. Buy two, get two free.
Hell yeah.
Is that accurate?
No, not at all.
Guaranteed.
It's on the internet. It must be true.
Yes, exactly. Today we're going to review the first, and I guess we can call it the latest. That's what I wanted to say, but the first of the Broken Realm books for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Morathi. My girl. But we'll probably go pretty deep on this, so we'll kind of rush through our normal antics. Matt, give us a quick rundown of your hobby and your fitness.
All right. Well, as far as hobby goes, been working on Lumineth pretty heavy. I got the bases finished up. I got the flocking that I need to finish the bases. I've been working on shields. As soon as I get done with the shields, then on to the rank and file. Yeah,
Cool.
it's the beginning. It's like we're at the top of the roller coaster. As soon as I go, then I'm sure it's just gonna fly after that.
Yeah, super easy.
Yep. And then as far as fitness has been going, after trying to do some reevaluation with lack of progress, Neil and I have actually been working together a little tiny bit to try and help get the back strengthened, to try and,
Nice.
Get a little bit of a better foundation to then actually start pushing myself to actually start doing some more things.
No, that's fantastic. Tell you what, I'll go next because my furnace is kicking on, so that's going to be the noise you hear throughout this entire episode, and if you don't like it, then stop listening. That's your option. Listen or don't, because I can't turn the furnace off because it's cold.
No, I think that's a plea for sponsorships, Chuck. And then if you get enough sponsorships, you can replace it with a quieter furnace for the listeners.
Possibly. So my hobby, I got to play a couple games using new Morathi War Scrolls recently. I'm still completely caught up on painting everything I own until our orders come in for Shadow and Pain in the Morathi book, which we've already read thanks to the digital age. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good there. And then fitness-wise, just continuing doing CrossFit, workouts at home, watching my diet. I did just uncover that apparently we had a food scale, so I can start taking this to the next level and actually measuring out weight, like how many grams of food I'm eating, how many grams of, like turkey or chicken and rice. I can go like full bodybuilding level if I want. I don't know if I will, but I can. Neil, how about you?
Don't also use it to measure your output.
Dave, you're actually a little quiet. Can you turn your mic up a bit?
I have no idea how to turn my mic up, so
Cool.
I'll
Talk
just
louder.
Talk louder. Yeah, just make sure you're not using that same scale to measure your output as you're measuring your input.
Oh yeah, that's true. Neil,
Whenever you said scale, I first thought you were talking like on a scale of like cupcake to kale.
No. Okay, Neil. Everyone else shut up. Neil, hobby fitness, go.
Hobby-wise, I have been working on my daughter's Ideneth Deepkin along with her, so we're kind of jointly going after that. So everything that she does will look great. Everything that I've done, you'll notice. And then I've also been. This is going to sound really weird. I've been doing commission work for a friend. I am painting his juggernauts of corn, so I suppose that counts as commission for return and model. So.
Now, when you showed him how you paint, did you show him your models or did you show him Brush for Hire?
I should have showed him Brush for Hire. He would be more pleased with those results, I'm sure. But yeah, so that's nine juggernauts and a Lord of Corn on Juggernaut is what I'm currently slogging through there, and that is a slog, believe me. So fitness-wise, my wife and I have been watching our diets like crazy. just really cutting back on. It's been about a month we've been doing this now, and I have not had any kind of like Halloween candy. I mean, we've been doing pretty well with this with like a single cheat day. She is losing
Wow.
all kinds
All
of weight. I am just holding steady and not doing a thing. So clearly, I'm going to need to throw some working out into here eventually to see some results, because diet alone is not happening for me for some reason. Usually, it's very much the opposite of this. So I'm getting a little bit of a return on what we normally see and how my wife is frustrated with it. So, but yeah, gonna have to throw some push-ups into this, I think.
There you go.
But that's me.
Dave, how about you?
Well, for both hobby and fitness, I've been doing stuff with the kids. So for the hobby side, I've been playing some Warhammer amongst other games with my 8-year-old son. So that was fun. He has been enjoying playing the Seraphon against my Ogre Maw tribes. So that's always a good time. Teaching him the ropes, trying not to beat up on him too bad, and I hope he does the same for me. The painting side, I think I'm going to commit to getting my Noblars done by the end of January. So I'll be eating these words in just a month and a half, I guess. But I am within spitting distance of getting my first 60 done, which then leaves only 120 more.
Oh, that's not
Doesn't
too bad.
sound so bad that way.
No.
It's the dumbest, best project in AOS community right here. That's it.
Yeah, it's terrible. On the fitness side,
Dave, you know how to get Twitter fame with those when you're done, right?
I have no idea.
You need to hang them individually by the ceiling with fishing line, like Neil did with his KO.
It's not even fish line, just straight string, just to make everybody that much nervous.
All right. Maybe I'll do that. I'll suspend the Noblars from the ceiling just for fun.
Or just sneak over to Neil's house and just put all the Noblars all over his boats. And then that way it helps whenever Neil's like, "How the hell did you get in my house?"
Noblars. It's always the answer. On the fitness side, my daughter, who's 11 and in 6th grade, had to run the mile the other day, and she was really nervous about it. And so we had her on the treadmill down here in the basement. She wanted that. She volunteered for that, to practice running the mile, and she did an amazing job then running. And it was her idea to say, anyone who wants to have any kind of snacks after dinner has to do exercise first. So that's what we're getting into. I'm trying to actively walk during the day, or I've got the treadmill here that isn't hanging too many clothes on it right now. So I'm going to be physically active and setting a good example for my kids, who are setting good examples for me.
I mean, I'm glad that your kids have shamed you into exercising. That's a sign of good parenting right there, when your kids take control.
That's right. That's yeah.
Well, considering I only have 2 cats, and they tell me when they want fed, I feel ya.
Oh,
There's a kitty. There's a kitty. Nice. I guess also real quick reminder, if you're listening to this on the podcast form, we are doing video now, so jump on over to our YouTube, where you can watch all of our beautiful mugs as we talk about our war dollies and getting swole. But yeah, you guys ready to jump on into Broken Realms Morathi?
I've been waiting.
Yeah.
Cool.
So do we want to start off with just like an overall like a 1 out of 10?
Yeah. We'll do a brief overview for all of us. Real quick, spoilers ahead. So also, if you don't like the furnace,
just a few, right?
If you love the furnace noise, it's going to go throughout this, but you hate spoilers, you still need to tune out. So two prerequisites for this podcast: love a furnace background noise and be okay with spoilers. And if you want to have maybe like a slightly lesser spoiler-y type of way to get the story, I suggest Doug over at 2 Up Tough did a great series of videos on this. And actually, Warhammer Weekly just did they didn't do much on the lore, but they knocked out the rules, which we probably won't touch on too much. But you can check out those two channels both on YouTube to get other aspects. Whereas we're gonna go deep and we're gonna check it out. But yeah, Matt, since
those Stormcast rules, huh?
yeah, this pretty good. I still don't care about them. Stay Stormcast strong. But Matt, since you brought up the lovely idea, why don't you go first on your overview, and let's not do 1 out of 10 stars. Let's do 1 out of 10 Melusai. That's how we're gonna rate this book.
Well, all right. So I'll go 1 up. I'll do 1 out of 12.
They're units of 5, so we can. No.
1 out of 12, and I'm gonna give it 2.7. Meh. No. No, it's definitely ranks up there. It's like I said, I'm one of the people that falls into the category of doesn't really play any of these armies, and it was still a great book. The writing in it is fantastic. I watched those videos from Doug before we got the PDF, and he just words it. The way he describes the battles, or the way he puts how the battles are described, is spot on. Like, it's great that we've kind of gone a little bit away from the Realm Wars books, where it was this side fights, the other side fights and starts winning. Reinforcements show up, and that side starts losing.
The end until chapter 2.
Yeah.
It happens again in reverse.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I really like all the rule changes. I really like the lore, and all it does is make me just want to keep seeing what comes next.
Nice. Neil, well, actually, Matt, you didn't even put a number on it. You said ranks up there high. Give us a number. 1 out of 12, apparently.
I'm gonna go with a 10.756.
Okay. Neil, how about yourself?
I'm going to go with the 10 scale because my small brain can't handle a 12 scale. So I'm gonna give it 10 out of 10 Melusai. I really, really, really like this. Not just because of the content, but everything that was involved, from the lore to what they were giving us in this book. If you've listened to this podcast for a while, you've heard me saber rattling for War Scroll changes, and as well as points, playing with points, and we got both of those things in this book. It seems like they're kind of using it a little bit to patch armies, which I love. And I don't know how often they're going to be coming out with these books or what as we go along, but I just love that that's happening right now, even at whatever level it is. The content, the lore, and we'll get into this more, it touches on not just the new lore of Age of Sigmar and pushes the narrative forward, but it also just keeps, for those old longbeards among us who have been doing this for a long, long time. They keep throwing these little bits in for us, and there's one in particular I'm sure Chuck and I will touch on here that is just blew my mind to the point where I had to stop reading and text Chuck in the middle of reading it. It was just amazing. So I loved everything about it. My daughter plays Idoneth Deepkin. Was very happy with what was going on there. I don't play any of the other armies, not a single one. So, but still, like you said, loved it, top to bottom.
Nice. Dave, how about yourself? You can use apparently whatever scale you want now.
And by the way, Neil, that would have been a 12 out of 12.
I don't understand.
Matt, you'll have to do that for all of us, because I'm sure we'll be able to convert.
Place. Yeah.
Neil doesn't have enough fingers to count up to 12. He could count to 11, but so I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10, but I am gonna put 1 wound on one of the Melusai. So
okay, I like
9.5.
Ooh, I like that. I didn't think about doing that.
Yeah.
That's what would keep you around, Dave.
I can do that too. 10.756 Melusai, and they get to reroll once. There, see, anyone can do that, Dave. All right.
I just had a stroke.
So much like Matt, I don't these armies. Unlike Neil, I know nothing of the lore pre-AOS, and I found this book engaging. I felt that the things that I didn't know, for the most part, were largely covered in the book. So I have never read anything about Morathi, and yet they really introduce her well. They set up, her inspiration and her intent and her thought processes so well. I did not feel as though I was missing out by not having read the Daughters of Cain and the Ideneth Deepkin books. I am sure the experience would have been greater for having read them, but it's not like I am an outcast or an outsider by not having read other things. So I think that's a great approach to take.
Nice. As for me, I guess as a preface, I love Morathi and Cain and everything all about it. I play every army that was in this book. It's typically I just play the Daughters of Cain, but I own every army that was in this book. So that said, obviously I'm going to give this a 13 out of 10. But really the story and the lore from this book is the best we've had since the end times, I feel. It blew everything out of the water that we've seen as far as Realm Gate Wars for sure, but even the Malign Portents and Soul Wars. This felt like one of those great mini stories we got with Malign Portents when they were leading up to it, stretched out into a whole epic story that really, really just took the realms and said, I'm going to shake this up like a kid with an ant farm. Like, I'm just going to shake this and see what happens. Like, without not without care, but like things happened in this book that were bigger than I think anybody expected. It's not end times level, but it's like end times taking a few steps back. As far as
it's definitely a kid with an ant farm and a magnifying glass.
yeah, like they're having fun with their setting, and the setting's built in such a way that you can do that, and we don't have to worry about it blowing up yet. You know what I mean? Like, they can do these massive changes, and they're not going to be anything too big. Like, you think of like old fantasy, like when Outdoor fell in the end times. I guess, well, I already said spoilers. Like, that was a massive deal. Here we have a city falling, which we'll get to, and while it's a massive deal, it wasn't so massive that we're all just like, oh yeah, we're like, okay. Like, cool, I'm happy to see this. Not, oh my goodness, this thing that stood for 8,000 years and blah blah blah, it's gone. But
okay. We almost made it to a year, huh?
Yeah. Regardless,
I think we it's actually kind of telling as well, because it's saying that we've reached a point in the advancement of the lore since 2015, when this AOS started, that now we're established to a point where we can start really affecting the story and things that we thought were established and maybe a little bit more permanent, and now we're kind of playing with that a little bit more, and I love it.
Yeah, we've connected and built up we built up connections to the realms and the places in it, but this book shows us that nothing is sacred. So we're not going to have, maybe Hallowheart, I guess. That one might be sacred. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, fantastic book. Great layout. I can't wait to get my limited edition copy in my grubby little hands so I can read it a second time. But we'll press on. And if you're watching, you're going to notice that the screen's changing. I get some beautiful pictures of art up here as I scroll through this lovely, lovely digital version of the book. So we get to Act 1, Blood of Cain. So does anyone want to take the lead on this one? Because I definitely want to take the lead on the second part of this. Does anyone feel comfortable that they can walk us through?
I think it's all you, man.
All right. I'd offer. I figured I'd offer. So we start out, Morathi's agents, the Shadowstalkers, released in the Warcry Catacombs box set, have discovered what she calls the Blood of Cain, which is technically Fahrenheit, the realm stone of the 8 points, kind of like a liquid essence of chaos, I guess is what it's described as. Completely ripe with power, but very corrupting. There is actually a great short story that was released, if you're subscribed to the Broken Realms email, that talks about when the Shadowstalkers bring this to her and just how terrible it is and how powerful it is. But nonetheless, Morathi will press on. So Archaon's been harvesting this Varanite through his own means to essentially use it to break the locks through this immense corrupting power of this substance, and pouring it on the locks to Azir to open it back up so he can march on Azir and take it. And Morathi finds this out as well through her agents and sees this as a chance to get help, to go in and enact a plan to quote unquote get rid of the Varanite. Because right now, as much as like we goof on Sigmar and Azir and the Stormcast, the realms only are able to exist because Azir stands as like the one untainted place. Like there's always reinforcements that can come from Azir because nothing's hurting it, nothing's attacking it because nothing can get in unless Sigmar says yes. So she takes this information to Sigmar and says, "Hey, Archaon's gonna get this Varanite and he's gonna open up the locks to Azir and he's gonna march on you and you'll fall and then we'll all fall. So none of us want this. So how about we go and get rid of this substance?" So essentially the plan is Sigmar and Morathi will send an army in. Morathi will accompany because she can enact a spell that will open a portal to where all this Varanite kind of is being mined from, and just send it out into the ether between the realms, never to be touched again, and be completely useless to everybody. Sigmar doesn't trust her, but he also knows he can't not trust her, so he agrees to go along with this. And I'm curious what you guys think. Like, Sigmar knows he can't trust her because he knows she's duplicitous, but he also knows he can't say no. Do you feel like he did more to prepare for that or not? 'Cause I don't think he did. I think he's just like, well, this sucks, but okay.
Yeah. A lot of the time I hear people talk about Teclis and the whole Teclis thing. Teclis is the village idiot, blah, 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 That was very Teclian moment right there. I mean, that's some village idiot stuff right there. That I think actually that title is now being moved on to Sigmar because he has made some really bad decisions lately. And well, I understand that, he kind of had to do what he had to do. Maybe put in some kind of fail safe, and like he had like one guy, one Stormcast, like well, I'll kind of keep my eye on her.
Yeah. There was one Lord Arcanum, and she's so obviously like found out. Like the Stormcast are not subtle. Like we don't have Assassin Stormcast yet.
She is just giving her the fisheye the entire time, right?
Like I see this. I mean, they don't actually mention it, but I see this Lord Arcanum like going up to Morathi at some point, but like, I'm watching you very intently to make sure you don't do anything wrong. Just me's watching you.
And Scout's honor. We're good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this was a lot of Sigmar basically saying, would it help you if I gave you my social security number as well? Like,
yeah.
Listen, all I know, this is classic throw your hammer Sigmar.
Yeah. He just doesn't have a hammer anymore. He just throws an army around without care. I mean,
he's basically just like, well, listen, if you backstab me, I'm gonna punch you in the mouth. And that's...
See, here's the problem.
I've still got this open another chamber button.
See, here's the problem. Sigmar has this Azir privilege that he needs to let go of.
Oh wow, that needs to be a shirt. Sigmar,
yes.
Sitting on the throne, just says Azir
privilege. He just throws army everywhere. Who cares?
No chaos in my realm.
The hell I can't.
And you get an army, and you get an army.
So he agrees to go along with Morathi's plan, and Morathi, is going to be leading this combined army essentially into the enemy's home territory. Now, obviously, Morathi is well planned for this, but it is still a risk. So. It does. Let's also give credit to Morathi's ability to use her honeyed words to get what she wants. So if she has one power in the Pantheon, while she's not been a god compared to everybody else, is she's been around longer and she knows how to get what she wants. Except for maybe to her son. Her son obviously will see through her every single time. He's used to it. So it is key to note here that Sigmar will send some of his hammers of Sigmar and a few other chambers or storm hosts as well. But Morathi specifically asked the help from some Anvils of the Heldenhammer, who are normally stationed in Anvilgard, because she fought with them before, but it's the only ones she asked also accompany. Sigmar sees no issues with that, so sends a good battalion of them as well, even though it leaves Anvilgard a little bit more unguarded than anyone would really like. So that will come back to play later. The Stormcast and the Daughters Khaine both agree the best place to get into the 8 points is through the Genesis Gate, which is held by Ilariel in Ghyran, which, if you did read the Realm Gate Wars, that's the one she takes by defeating the Glotkin, and she seals it off from the 8 points. That was her final act inside the Realm Gate Wars. So Morathi, once again, uses her ability to sway and convince Ilariel to open it. Ilariel's not going to send any help. She doesn't care. She's like, oh, whatever. I'm just going to stay here with my children. And no one pushes the issue that says, oh, you should send some Sylvaneth too. Morathi doesn't want that, first off, because they would probably be harder to deal with than the Stormcast, who are very predictable in her grand plans. But she does convince Ilariel to open it for the betterment of the realms and the survival of her own realm of Ghyran. And this was the first really cool scene in the book. What did you guys think about the gates, the gate of Genesis Gate opening?
So this is another, like, my goodness, Sigmar, right? Like, so this goddess decides, I'm gonna go through this realm gate and just flood it. I'm gonna flood the entire defenses. I'm not gonna send one guy in. I'm just gonna use my god powers to eviscerate every defender.
Yep.
Whereas Sigmar's like, let me go throw all these guys in there to die.
Yep.
So, I'll just remake them, and they'll be a little bit screwed up, but it'll be fine.
Yes. So I forget what the waterfall's called, but there's a waterfall that's connected to this realm gate, and Lariel just unleashes it into the realms. That's the first act of, like, violence is, and like these realm gates are huge. Like, armies can march across it. So imagine, taking the biggest lake you can imagine, doubling it, and just pushing it through a doorway onto a group of people, and just squished, destroyed, drowned. Which,
by the way, great idea. Like, I mean, if you go back into, like, Greek mythology and, like, Wrath of God type stuff, this is that.
Yeah.
Right? It's not Sigmar going, hey guys, go give it your best.
Yeah.
No, I think Sigmar plays the role of Zap Brannigan. He's just going to throw wave after wave of troops against it. And the killbots have a switch. They only kill so many, and then they shut down. So
just with every action.
Well, I mean,
it's just,
let's also be very serious here. Like, so the Genesis Gate is really far from these Varanite Maws, which is Varanthrax's Maw is the name of the mine. So Ilariel doing this really helped out both sides. And I don't think anyone convinced her that this is how she should do it. She could have just, like, opened it and be like, okay, cool, see ya. But she opens it, crushes the initial defenses, like, tenfold, and saves, like, I don't remember hearing about, like, a single, like, Daughters of Khaine or Stormcast dying after the waters go through and they march in, because, like I said, once again, another cool thing, the Stormcast walk in, and it's the Hammers of Sigmar. They're always the first, blah blah blah. Ultramarines, poster boys, whatever you want to call them. So they're just a shield wall marching forward to whatever's left, just hammering and not letting anything through. And then the Daughters of Khaine leap over, and this is exactly how you'd think they would act. Now the rules maybe don't enact this, but Daughters of Khaine just leaping over the shield wall, stabbing and killing and blood frenzying everywhere, while the shield just kind of slowly advances, and they get their beachhead into the realms, or to the 8 points. I guess we should say those waters were magic. So, like, old dead vines were, like, reviving in the ground and crushing the defenses. So, like, I guess you could kind of say Lariel was sort of sending aid.
It was the symbolism of it too, which, the waters come through. It's basically washing away chaos. Like, life is blooming in this in the 8 points, which has just been almost pulled into as part of the realm of chaos. Really, it's just so messed up at this point. So it was kind of neat to see that as well.
Which kind of leads me, like, if it can do that, like, could Gairan, like, can the realms sort of take over each other? If you know what I mean? Like, could Gairan do this everywhere? Could it spread through these, like, magical waters and just overgrow? Like, kind of like, you know, because we have the realm of chaos, where there's the four gods and they each have their own thing, and they kind of expand and contract against each other. Could the realms start doing that if they get to that point, do you think?
I think you're starting to see. You saw a little bit of that with Soul Wars, right? With the amount of ethereal ghosts popping up in every realm, and all that. So I mean, that had a little bit different of reason to happen, but
Right.
I think it would be tough because I think the different realm stones, you'd have to concentrate it to such an extent to really take over another realm, whereas the 8 points is like this neutral ground. So you pour a little bit of the life energy in, and you can inject life. But I'm sure it's a different story if you try to inject life into Akshi or something like that, where the fire is so concentrated to fight it.
So the 8 points is literally just it's open for whatever, because it is nothing. So therefore, it'll just take on whatever touches. That's why it's so chaosy right now. Maybe. Okay, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So, all right, the entire battle, if we want to call that, goes exceedingly well. And the beachhead is essentially formed. The Daughters of Cain continue to do their Daughters of Cain ways and start ripping out the hearts of the victims, whether they're dead or alive, carving blasphemous Cainite runes into them, as the Stormcast called it, and drain all the blood into the cauldrons of blood that Morathi brought along with her, because they never empty. It's just, no matter how much blood they put into it, these don't empty, because they all feed back to the mother cauldron. I think the Mathcain? I forget. I didn't write it down, so I apologize. But that's back in Hagnar. That's Morathi's big one. So as these cauldrons are always filled, they never overflow, and they just go back and give Morathi more power. So Stormcast are not, I don't want to say they're unhappy, but they're very uncomfortable by all this. Like,
What?
they're used to just killing, and like, okay, this chaos is dead, we're done with it. Whereas Daughters of Cain, like, oh no, we got more power to milk out of it. And Morathi plays it off that this will help them in the grand spell. It is a needed thing, and the Stormcasters kind of turn a blind eye, as they do. So from this point, a little beachhead will remain to make sure nothing gets into Lariel's realm, which I guess was probably part of the agreement. I think she'd be very upset if they all just walked away. Plus, it is the way back out. They're gonna go do their task and come back this way is the plan. It wasn't the plan ever, but that's the plan that they told Sigmar. While nothing survived to see what happened at this Genesis Gate entrance, as far as the defenders, there was one character who is of Chaos who saw this and survived because they were off in the distance. It was a Herald of Slaanesh on her chariot, Glavia Sinhart. She sees this and she leaves. And we don't know why she leaves. She just saw it and left. It's like, well, at this point, like, is she going to go tell Archeon? Like, what's going on? But she actually has bigger schemes as well. But she comes back later. Let's see, scroll down. So the combined army then begins its slog. It is, I forget, I think I said how many days march it was, but it's a long march to the Varanthrax's Maw. And there's constant battles and skirmishes along the way, slowly picking off, nothing that's causing any of the plan to be seen as like, oh, I don't know if we can do this anymore, but enough to be a nuisance. And then eventually the parties split from there, so we get the Daughters of Cain and the Sacrosanct Chamber, including this Lord Arcanum that is eyeing up Morathi pretty well, will depart from the main Stormcast host, and there's some Daughters of Cain with them too. The main Stormcast host is going to go and attack them all from the outside over these mountains and distract and try and pull away as much of the Chaos forces as possible, while Morathi and the smaller force go underneath to enact the spell to drain away the Varanite. It's also fortuitous at this point that the Ozark Bone Reapers, which just made a entrance back in Wrath of the Everchosen, have gone off to also go fight Archeon's forces. And the Stormcast don't know why, but Morathi's like, hey, it's fortunate. We should just take advantage of this. Let's leave them be. They'll draw some more stuff away. We'll be good. But in reality, Morathi took a bunch of shadow-infused bones from Ulgu and made an offer with them to, hey, go attack Archeon like you want to, and just leave us alone. So, obviously, Sigmar wouldn't go along with this, but what Sigmar doesn't know doesn't hurt him. Continuing to be the new village idiot. So we get an amazing scene in the mines when they come upon this just massive collection of Varanite. And truth be told, like, this stuff can't be contained in vessels. Like, if you touch it, you just turn into like a tentacled mess. It's literally changing the walls that are next to it, like that were just, like it's just this stuff's in the ground, and the walls next to it are just like turning into flesh and faces and like gibbering maws. So like this stuff's very, very hard to do anything with. So the Chaos had a pretty ingenious plan. They had these huge worms that apparently could eat the stuff, that they would then drive down to eat it, drive it back up, and then they would kill the worms, cut its belly open, and then pour it into places where they could contain it with their magics and all that. So we see a battle ensue on these walkways all over top of the Varanite mine, and Morathi starts casting the spell, and Stormcast begin battling. Dr. Kane begin battling to protect, but really it's a distraction. So none of this real battle is actually kind of like taking place, but it is. Essentially, Morathi's making it look like there's a bigger battle going on than there is, from what I was able to read and gather through it. And the Stormcast are taking the brunt of the actual fighting. While the Daughters Kane look like they're fighting, they're actually stabbing one of these worms full of Varanite that's above them to drain all the Varanite out of it into the cauldrons of blood. So this is where we get that one Lord Arcana that, not so subtle, was seeing this going on. And as she begins to see through this magical betrayal that Morathi is doing, she gets a knife in her chest from just, I don't know, it could have been a Shadow Stalker, it could have been an assassin. Anyway, she starts turning to stone. She's not dying. All the other Stormcasts are dying and going away because they're not seeing through this. But they knew this Lord Arcana was seeing through the ruse. So she is now living stone, unable to die. So her soul cannot return to Azir as she watches her whole chamber just get destroyed. Morathi and all of her Daughters Kane get all the Varanite out of this worm and then just leave.
I bet that guy that did all the Stonecast I've been seeing on Facebook is pretty happy.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Can I say too, like, another moment here? It's like, so here we are. We're going into the 8 points where no invasion's ever been successful. All right. So I'm going to take these couple of chambers, and I'm going to give no reinforcements. There's no plan for reinforcements. It's just a straight suicide mission. Well, like, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. Like,
it was
crazy.
said that due to the power of chaos, Sigmar can't throw Stormcasts into here.
He does have an open realm gate though. And I feel like he might have march some extra bros.
Oh, you mean like through the Genesis gate? Like just keep sending bodies?
Yeah, yes. They'll get there in a week, Neil. It's a long slog. Like that's the problem. They have to trek all the way across the vast
You've already
desert.
got the snowplows out there in front of you. I feel like, these guys would have had an easier time, right? Something. Come on, something.
Possibly. Or you think Sigmar would have tried to pull like, hey, maybe we send some humans in there as well, like get some Free City stuff going on. Maybe, I don't know. He could have pulled some weight.
And get some dwarves. They want the job done right.
No, it's a long slog. They don't need to make it longer with their 4-inch movement, Matt.
Yeah. The dwarves move 4 inches at a time.
Every Stormcast carries a dwarf.
Okay, all right, I buy that.
When you model it that way, Matt, then we'll call for that.
It'll be like a whole army of Master Blasters. That's
So, while Morathi succeeds at her master plan to steal Varanite into her cauldrons of blood that feeds into her master cauldron and escapes, there is still the main distraction force up above of Stormcast and some Daughters Kane. And they get in the battle. They do their part well, and then something pretty interesting happens. And I kind of like that they're not holding back on this. Like, we've seen this before, where Stormcast can have true death. So, war shrines. We all, some of us have them. We've played them. They're okay. But now the war shrines have icons made of Varanite. So whenever Stormcast dies, the soul doesn't go back to Azir. The soul goes screaming into these shrines for whatever torment awaits to it in there. So during this battle, and we do have a, should have mentioned him earlier, but there is a Anvil of Heldenhammer, Kaiser von Brecht. So he's going to be an important returning character. He is part of the leadership of the force for the Distraction Force. So during this fight, one of these war shrines is sucking away the souls of the Stormcast, who aren't going back to the heavens as they die as this thing's near. He rushes it with his fellow Stormcast, and I think a Lord Celestin, and they take it down, just obliterate it. And then they see dozens more of these shrines coming that were created by these what's that Zinch guy on disc?
Fabius Bile.
No.
Gaunt Summoner.
Gaunt Summer, thank you. Yeah, so so there's a brief window where these things are far away that Von Brecht sacrifices himself, but Lord Celestin, that's what he's with, just puts the sword through him, says trust in Sigmar, puts the sword through him, and we get another really cool scene here where the Stormcast dying in this moment, including Von Brecht, their souls are racing up to the heaven, but as these shrines are getting closer, they're like these stark tendrils racing after them, trying to suck them back down, and some of them do get sucked back down. And it was just like, that was an unexpected bit of read, where we see Von Brecht's death through Von Brecht's eyes, what it looks like to die as a Stormcast, and start heading back to Azir. Like, that was a really cool thing.
It's also cool to see, for as much as Sigmar's sitting behind these gates and he's trying to be everywhere at once and all these different beachheads and really doesn't have enough guys to really, he's making some impact here and there. Archaon's just sitting back there just figuring it out how to take it right back to Sigmar. Through the Azir gate, sucking these souls back. And if you remember back in the Realm Gate Wars, there was this moment where Archaon splits, who's that Lord Celestin on Dracoth, the named character. Can't think of his name right now.
Vandus Hammerhand.
Vandus Hammerhand, and he cuts him in two, right? And his soul goes bursting up to his ear, and Archaon puts his hand out and is just playing with his soul a little bit there.
Oh yeah.
And so when I was reading that, I was kind of thinking about how, I wonder if even clear back to then, he's had some idea of how he was going to do this, or how he was going to kind of figure this out. Between scorching the skies so that they can't fly or storm drop in and all this. It's just he's got a lot of plans. This guy.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I look at it as like, and again, they did a really good job. This is probably my favorite scene of the story. But I don't know how it would feel to be a Stormcast in that situation. Like, especially someone from the Anvil of the Heldenhammer, since they are the oldest Stormcast and are typically the most as bad as it gets with being reforged so many times, because you have that torment. I would say, yes, they were originally reforged because they didn't show fear, whenever they faced death.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're talking about Stormcasts that are potentially thousands to 10,000 years old, who forgot what that safety net, forgot what it feels like without that safety net.
Yeah.
And also, you have the other side of oh, I could finally be done with this as well.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, it's they don't know what that death is. Is that just true death and they're dead, or is that torment being sucked into there?
Right. Well, again, as far as that goes, it's like I said, that safety net's gone. It's the same enigma that they had whenever they were human.
True.
Well, I think one thing that really gets highlighted here is the fact that Sigmar he's a blind idiot. So maybe he's the village idiot, but he's blind too. Like, he relies on others to tell him what's going on. He's not some omniscient. He's largely omnipotent, but he's not omniscient. He doesn't know what's going on, and that's a real focus of a lot of what happens in the book, where he has no idea, and it's really important that they get this guy back up to his ear to inform the boss upstairs, because how does he know he needs reinforcements? He's used to, okay, I'm going to throw a couple chambers down and this will get cleaned up and we'll move on to the next catastrophe.
That's true. He does. I mean, it has worked so far, whether it's the Stormcast doing it or whatever allies they find along the way. But yeah, like, you know, it was a risk Von Brook took to sacrifice himself to get back to Azir, and he was doing it to warn Sigmar. So I guess thankfully he makes it.
Would be a much shorter book otherwise, I think.
Yeah, it'd be a little shorter. So yeah, we've seen Morathi betray Sigmar and the Stormcast, steal this incredibly powerful stuff for an unknown means, and Stormcast are now facing a true death, possibly torment, and Morathi didn't get rid of that Varanite. She just took what she wanted and left. So that Varanite that is there, like, it's still there. It's not gone. So I'm sure they have enough to do what they need to do with for whatever plans Archean and the Gaunt Summoner has. So that will be fun to see in the future lore unfolding. But we go into Act 2, Rise of a Goddess. And this is the best part of the book, if you can't guess. It's not Act 3, it's Act 2. So Morathi gets back to Hagnar. Her mother cauldron's full of blood sacrifices and this Varanite, and she's going to enact her plan to become a god. Now, we do see a little bit of a sidestep here of a second story where the Ideneth have discovered that the lantern that Teclis used to draw souls, the original souls, to create them, and also try and banish the light out of them, and the weapon that he would use to kill them all if he could.
It kind of illuminates the issue, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's deep within their souls, right? And so that's what kind of scared them away and kind of drove them into hiding in the first place. And so they try to keep this thing under wraps.
Yeah. So this is the Asarian lantern, is what it is. And it's a really cool story we see, because the Ideneth Deepkin stole it whenever they ran away from Teclis, and they hid it essentially in the Marianas Trench area of Ghyran, the deepest, darkest part of the sea, where this light is truly hidden. Now, the best thing about being that dark and deep is shadows are there, and one of the things that I think wasn't really touched upon too much, but I think is a very big thing to realize. So we've seen, like, normally you have to go through Realm Gate to get to the realms. Now, Sigmar can throw stuff wherever he wants, but once they're there, they have to go through realm gates. The Skaven can gnaw a hole through reality to whatever realm they want. But the Shadow Stalkers that Morathi has created, both like her own brand and putting the essence of Ulgu in them, they can teleport anywhere they want pretty much in the realms, as long as there's shadow through these web shadow ways. It's not just limited to just Ulgu, it's anywhere. So she sends, I don't know what the exact number was, but she sends a bunch of these Canet Shadow Stalkers into the, I guess, little fortress where underwater that this lantern's hidden by the IDK, and only one makes it out. And I guess we should also say Morathi puts a spell on all of them that they can live and breathe underneath the water down there. So one single Shadow Stalker makes it out of however many she sends, and like she's blind and going mad, and like her skin is searing as she's swimming to the surface to be rescued by, I guess, Scourge privateers also in Morathi's thrall. It's just like, that's such a like my goodness, like this relic is important. That's what that whole thing sets up. This is an important relic, and it's going to be used as part of her plan to become a goddess. So we get back. We're in Hagnar. Cauldron's full. Morathi has this lantern. Now, while she has a navy, because there is a nice map I'll try and bring up here. There we go. Hagnar is in the middle of all these little islands in Ulgu. Oh, yeah, and look, real quick. We finally see a map of Ulgu. Like, not the whole realm, but this is the most we've seen of this realm in this book. It's exciting. There's a lot of names. I read every name I could on this page. I'm just like, there's a lot of stuff. I can't wait to see what the heck it is.
When I read these maps, sometimes I think about these poor guys who have to try and come up with names for like every single one of these cities. I mean, it's like, whew. I mean, there must be smoke coming out of their ears by the time they're done with even just a section of one of these.
Oh
things.
yeah.
And you can tell sometimes with some of these names that they're like, just
Yeah, sometimes the cat walked across the keyboard.
Yeah, and
Get
they're just
out
like,
the Scrabble bag.
oh man, like it was one
some are better than others.
Helizar, Greater Ulgaroth. Like, yeah, it's some cool stuff here. So Hagnar, the capital city for Morathi, and technically the Daughters of Cain, it's this little island that is pretty well fortified, but Morathi needs a bigger navy, so she contracts the Scourge privateers from the closest, I guess, city of Sigmar, Misthoven, to come fortify it as she enacts her plan. Because she's worried. She has this lantern. She knows the IDK know about it. She probably still worried that Sigmar will find out about what she did. So she's like, I need to do this, and I need to do this now. So with everything in place, she starts a ritual. And by the way, she hasn't told anybody that she's going to become a god. Maybe her Melusai, who are her closest lieutenants. All the Daughters of Cain know out of all this is she's going to resurrect Cain with this spell. And she technically does. Let's be fair. She technically does. Just not in a way maybe she told them originally. So as the ritual begins up above, we see this huge tidal wave coming towards Hagenel Bay, which is the only real good bay in Hagnar, where all these Scourge privateers, and I think there is humans, so I don't think it's just elves, so it's like, there's these privateers that are here to barricade, and we see, 12 Leviathans, like, appear out of the water as living battering rams in the coolest scene I've ever seen of IDK, where they just, like, something about water crashing down in this book. It's just, it works.
Hey, someone had to really pee when they were writing.
But
somebody was watching all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies.
Yeah, what did you guys think about that? Like, because I never saw the Leviathan as living battering rams. Like, when I first read them and saw them.
That's one of the things, like, that's one of the reasons why I was so upset with the rules whenever this came out, was like, I saw them as like these, basically just these giant multifunctional tanks. Just this living mass of invulnerability. And I feel like the book finally captured what I saw in the model when they were first released.
Well, and it also hits the rules, because the rules are, if I'm not mistaken, that thing sort of gives cover to everything around it. So you send them in first, and you can't touch the rest of the stuff that comes behind. So they work phenomenally with the rules, and that ties into this lore. And like you said, this lore ties into almost more of your expectations than what they do in the game necessarily.
I see these
really
things
wanted
as
a
like
battalion with 9 though. That's...
And make them battle line too.
Heck yeah.
I see them as like flying Bastillodons, only they're bigger, right? I mean, they're bigger than Bastillodons. They're armored, almost just as well. And so, I like the way that that's coming through. And then if you look at the rules changes for these guys, I don't want to get too much into that at this point, but it matches up now pretty well with how they're describing it. So,
yeah, and so in the story, the Leviathans just wreck ships. Now the ships do give back, like cannonballs are bouncing back, and these Scourge privateers are earning their make. But yeah, it's brutal. And then out of that, from behind that comes all the Namarti, and obviously the IDK are bringing everybody. So this is actually a mixed effort from all the I forget what are the IDK chambers called?
oh,
Beaches.
No, but
I can't think of it. I can't think of it right
Enclaves.
Enclaves.
now. Enclaves.
Yeah.
There we go.
So-
Enclaves. I looked it up.
and and Volturnus, obviously being the High King, is the one that told everybody what was going on. So this is a nice mixed force. This is a full force IDK invasion of Hagnar, which is pretty crazy to think about, considering like we've just had so far, like Chaos has been in this picture, and sure there was like the name Chariot guy that who cares, but like Chaos has been there as just like something to bat away in this book so far. It's been mostly Order fighting Order, even if Order hasn't realized it. Now this obviously is like, yeah, like the IDK are here to get that lantern, because if it falls into the wrong hands, Teclis, he could come wipe them out in an instant. He could, and they do not want that. They like living.
There is one thing that was missing from their invasion, and I think missing from most IDK tables, and there was no Lotan present in this invasion. I was a little disappointed. I'm not sure what he would have done. Maybe just recorded what was going on in the background.
Yeah, he had to take his octopus to get groomed.
Yeah. I mean, also like we got some great War Scroll updates for all the armies here, but IDK especially. This would have been a good place to update Lotan as well.
Yes. Oh, please. Like that's like when I was looking through the updates, and I was gonna go. I'm like, please find a spot for Lotan.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
This was probably
keep waiting.
This is probably the spot for Lotan. So yeah, he's gonna sit at 80 points. He is in my list because I have just enough points, and he's the only model that fits. So I run him.
Also, he's got
run.
an angry octopus, so you got to run him.
Yeah.
But that whole Order versus Order thing, like you said, that's a big deal. That Chaos is secondary at best here.
Hold on, we can't
really...
ignore that. Who did that?
Wasn't me.
Wasn't me.
Dave, was it you?
Wasn't me.
I heard music appear.
I'm pretty sure it was from Matt.
Mm.
Yeah, because he looked down when it happened.
Oh.
So the Order versus Order really cements that idea that Order doesn't mean good. There were a lot of people saying, oh, the Daughters of Cain shouldn't be in Order and whatever, and this shows again, the Daughters of Cain and the Ideneth Deepkin and the Darkling Covens and all that stuff, or the other seafaring elf guys.
Scourge Privateers.
Right, they're the ones. They're all Order armies, but again, it's that they live an orderly life in cities and things. It has nothing to do with being the good guys.
It also shows that, like, in a lot of these stories, you do see Chaos getting pushed back. Realm Gate Wars. We established these beachheads. We pushed Chaos back a little bit, but it also shows how they are nowhere close to defeating Chaos, because they are still so fractured. That nobody's. If maybe they turned all these forces to defeating Chaos like they did in the Age of Myth, that it might work, but there's so much battling against each other that it's just never going to happen, at least at this point.
It's like the Chaos Gods. They can't unite, so they can't win. Like Order's the same way right now. But
that's why I play Destruction.
Yeah, because they're united.
I think that actually is an interesting thought too. Like Chaos is kind of folds in on itself, but then showing that Order does the same thing, right? Is just an interesting thought to think about.
Well, I guess everyone's like that right now, right? With even with Death.
No, Death is still controlled entirely by Nagash.
Yeah,
that's the one where it is fully unified.
Yeah,
I thought FEC was against them.
They see Nagash as a god. Yeah. Like they see him as like a divine god. Like they're not dead, but yeah, Death is the only one that's unified, which makes them the most boring, if you ask me.
But also, I mean, if you look at it though, right, they've got a beachhead in the 8 points, right? So that focus is working at some level, but it's not working anywhere else.
So I'm curious if what if the like the OBR and just imagine like a necromancer or a vampire going out and attacking against these war shrines. If those skeletons die, do those souls get stuck the way too? Like, does it work on everything?
Yeah,
because like Death is the same way. They can just keep like, oh, you killed that skeleton, well, he's back. Go again.
Yeah, but as we know, Nagash doesn't like when other people prevent him from getting his souls. So if he does find out that the souls of his dead, he will He will not be a happy
Right. He will march out and
immortal
die
necromancer,
as he always does.
Yeah.
I'll say that'd be a weird scene where you see Nagash and Stormcast teaming up.
But we've seen it.
Yeah, but
I think it happened in the Realm Gate Wars, didn't it?
I would see Nagash is bringing in as much as humanly possible, so he can just fill those suckers up with souls and blow them up from the inside.
It's true. Like, eat this and just fill it. Anyway, back to the story here. So, as the IDK managed to get a beachhead, the Daughters of Cain in the area do join in on the battle as the IDK are trying to fight their way up into the I guess core island of Hagnar, which is a treacherous island. Like, this is like, ships don't go through here unless they know exactly where to go. And even going up, it's like you have to climb like this mountain. It's like so many switchbacks. Like, this is not an easy place to get to. So, and Morathi was worried, rightfully so, about all this stuff happening. So, as the IDK are moving up, and the Daughters of Cain and Scourge Privateers in the area are trying to hold their ground, there's a piercing scream of ecstasy as Galavia Sinhart, the Herald of Slanesh we saw earlier, makes the appearance as like this boat just crashes onto the shore and just starts chewing through everybody, also headed up towards Morathi. And it was just like, at this point, I'm like, what? Why? like why? Like, at first I'm like, is this just more like they're throwing something in for no reason? But like, there was a reason for this, and it did pay off at the end of the book, and I guess at the end of the battle. But the IDK now are stuck between the frenzied Daughters of Cain and the Slanesh, and Slanesh and Daughters of Cain are also fighting because the Daughters of Cain hate Slanesh. So, and you don't want to be an IDK right now. You're stuck between blades on one side and pincers on the other, and it's a bad proposition. So
Devil's Freeway, I think they call it.
Yeah. Wasn't fully. All the participants were not willing.
It's the way Slanesh likes it.
Yep. So the Volturnus decides, we are here for this lantern. We have to get this lantern. So he rides up with like the other eels and other Achillean kings. I guess the Achillean riders are heading up to go confront Morathi, while the rest just try and hold their ground and not die to anything else. And he actually makes it up there. He is a named character. He is the king, and I think he was the first soul Teclis pulled out. I can't quite remember his lore fully. I think he was the first soul that was pulled out of
First of the
Slanesh.
First of the Sithai.
Yeah.
And last right now too.
Yeah, he's the only remaining Sithai, so and they were
Okay.
the first forged, whatever.
Gotcha. And meanwhile, there's this massive dome of crystal figures at the top, made of still living. They're turned to crystal, but the still living enemies of Morathi. Like, there's enough to create this massive dome. Like, holy crap! Talk about cold. And
We should also, with that point too, talk about how. So one of the reasons why that Slanesh champion is here is because a Slanesh force invades, and they get far enough inside one of Morathi's holds to find out that Morathi is actually keeping alive champions of chaos, shackled, and imprisoned in these for what reason, they don't know. But this is one of the driving forces, I think, for the Slanesh army coming in there. More to come on that, Chuck, and I'll let you continue.
And I'm glad you kind of segued perfectly, because we're going to flash to the actual ceremony Morathi performs. And in order to get this, she's going to essentially suck out souls from Slanesh directly and use them to have an apotheosis to godhood. But in the Varanite and all the blood magic and all the prayers that she gets through the Iron Heart of Cain is what's feeding her all this power. But
Side note, I'd like to point out.
Oh yeah.
None of these attributes she's going to get is in the Anvil of Apotheosis. I expect to see an update in the next show's Anvil.
The Dark Anvil of Apotheosis.
Yeah.
The Cauldron of Apotheosis.
There you go. So these champions of, and it's only champions of Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Khorne are sacrificed, and their souls are fed through the portal that is in this Mother Cauldron that Morathi has opened with all of this Varanite and blood magic and all that, and shadow magic. Oh yeah, there's a font of pure shadow magic right underneath Hagenal Bay too. So let's don't forget that that's mixed in here. Like, these souls, and there's thousands
directly into Slaanesh, right?
Yeah,
Slaanesh's belly, right?
There's thousands of these souls being fed into Slaanesh, and Slaanesh is like eating bad food, but Slaanesh can't stop because of excess. So this distracts. I don't want to say weakens.
Like a Taco Bell served Thai.
Yeah, Taco Bell served Thai, and it was an all you can eat buffet, and it was your last meal. Like, sure, I don't clean up whatever mess I make.
Followed by tequila.
So, as Slaanesh is withering within her prison in Ulgahish, which is still holding them. I guess, we don't.
It.
Yeah, I mean, gender neutral pronouns for Slaanesh makes more sense.
But they do refer to Slaanesh consistently as the Dark Prince, for what it's worth.
Yeah, and then I think 40K they refer to it as the female form. I don't know, like it's interchangeable. Whatever you like, it's gonna happen. So this gets to be the coolest part. Morathi steps through into essentially Slaanesh's belly with this lantern to pull souls. And this gets us to page 45 of the book, which is, oh boy, this is the coolest part of lore I have read since End Times Kane. Probably because it has to deal with elves. And I know
one particular elf even.
No, I mean there's more than just one. And like I said, we're gonna probably go a little bit deeper on just this one page. This one page is hugely impactful if you are a fan of the elves, not just the Daughters of Cain. So long and short of it, unless Neil, do you want to describe what happens here?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. So basically she's finding a lot of souls are being brought in towards the lamb, and she is discarding any soul that she doesn't find worthy, right? She only wants the brightest, highest potential souls that she can find. And what these souls are basically like souls of kings that Slaanesh has eaten. So she starts latching onto these souls, and they realize, like the souls realize that this is bad, right? And they're trying to escape her, they're trying to attack her, and she's basically coiling around them like a snake and just and eating them essentially. Tell me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah, she's crushing them and absorbing them, like just
absorbing their essence in, and so that essence, that power from those souls are basically becoming part of her, and that's what's seems like is bringing her to her godhood, until she gets to the last one, and this is where
the brightest one as well.
The brightest one as well. So, for those of you who there's only one elf in history. Now, Morathi is old. Morathi is probably the oldest outside the Chaos Gods and Lord Croak. She's probably the oldest being in the Age of Sigmar. She predates and they talked about this a little bit in Warhammer Weekly, but she predates Dark Elves, right? We have to kind of go way back to really understand the significance of what happens here.
And if you want to know more about her significance and her history, I did write up a great lore article, and I'm going to call it great because it is great, on the Strength Hammer blog. I think it's called Morathi Journey of the Shadow Queen. It tells you her history from the old world and what she did and all the crazy stuff. Like she is such an important character, and I'm glad she's making moves still. So sorry, continue, Neil.
And this is like, I mean, this goes back to almost what the opening act of the Warhammer Old World was. And so the first invasion of chaos into the old world, there's an elf named Anarion, and Anarion the Defender is the first Phoenix King. And he actually is...
And real quick,
go ahead.
So the Phoenix Kings were he's the first Phoenix King of the elves, not the high elves, of the elves. He's the he's the true king, whatever you want to call him. Chaos was invading the home island of the elves. He couldn't do anything to stop it. And they worshipped this god called Asurian. Asurian was the elf god. He was the power. There's a sacred flame. That's where the Phoenix Guard originally came from before their new Phoenix lore now. But there's a sacred flame. He threw himself onto this flame as a sacrifice to his god, because he was the king, to save his people. And Anarian burned and was reborn, and essentially was like what you'd think of like a deity of essence. He was not a god, but like he was divinely touched. Like
it's like an avatar almost.
Yeah, and he was able to slay greater demons on his own. So, and
the elves are pretty rudimentary at this point too. They don't have a lot of the weaponry, that they had, into. So he's taking spears and just chucking a regular ass, spear through ranks of demons and all this, and basically fights them back to a. Go ahead.
Yeah, so, and he's able to save the elves. Almost, he has to have one other thing of power to truly save the elves, which curses his line. Which we're getting.
That is the Sword of Cain.
Yeah, it's a Sword of Cain. So he's touched by two gods, Cain and Asurian. Asurian symbols fire. Cain is obviously blood. So yeah.
So through that process, though, he saves Morathi from this cult of pleasure. At least he thinks he saves her from it.
You never find it out, actually. We never find out if she was, or if this was her ploy all along. Like, we don't know.
I think that this was her ploy all along. I think she was already down this path well ahead of time, and she kind of, in essence, tricks Anarian. He winds up marrying her at one point, and they have a son together.
Yeah, well, actually, we can't go too far off the fact that even if this was her ploy to get and seduce the king, she actually fell in love with him. Like, there was love between these two. And it was true, and it was real, and that's, and Morathi's passionate. Let's hope. Yeah, like, let's not gloss over the fact that this wasn't just her plan all along. Like, she loved Anarian, and she wanted him to be with him forever, or be with her forever.
And I'm going to let you take this from here, Chuck, because I cannot remember exactly how the schism between those two happens.
So it's really like a Kalidor Dragon Tamer, which was the greatest mage the elves had ever known, up until, I think, Teclis kind of arrived on the scene. He did not like Morathi. He saw her as a negative influence. She was definitely pushing more of like the Cainite side that was latched onto Anarian's soul at this point. And Kalidor had a plan to finally defeat the demons, which would sacrifice himself and would probably do, it would take a lot to defend. And Morathi did not want him to go. Said, no, don't do this, you'll die. She was a seer, so she could kind of see the future at this point in the lore. Sure enough, Kalidor decides to enact the spell with or without Anarian, because those two were, they weren't actual brothers, but like they were as close as brothers. Like they had a battle bond that like ran deep. So when Kalidor started enacting the great ritual to create the vortex of the world that was, to pull all the chaos energy into that vortex, Anarian went. Anarian and his dragon slayed one of each greater demons before they died, and as Anarian was dying, his dragon flew him back so he could replace the Sword of Cain back in the hidden altar before, and then that's where he and the dragon died. And Morathi hated Kalidor from this point because she blamed him for her husband's death. So that wasn't so much as a schism as they began to hate each other, but like Anarian was torn between, his love of Morathi and, obviously their son, or helping save the world with his battle brother. So that's what the whole thing happened.
Anarian also, but there is that schism between them, and he winds up also siring with the Everqueen, some offspring known as Teclis and Tyrion at one point too. So where does that come in?
Well, it's not. So that was kind of like the that was before, I believe, because it was a second line. Because the king will always give an offspring through the they weren't called was she called the Ever Queen? Wasn't Alariel, but like it was the line that became, Alariel was one of the daughters from that line. So essentially the king, and it would become the Phoenix King, at first would be essentially married to the Ever Queen of the elves, and they would have kids until there was a daughter. That daughter would become the next Ever Queen, which is like the soul would just keep kind of passing and like knowledge, kind of like Avatar, if you ever watched that. Like they just keep feeding into each other and passing their knowledge on as they go about it. So yeah, there was 2 lines, but Morathi was after that. Not that Morathi ever liked them, and then that line through that queen, Ever Queen, eventually would be what came where Tyrion and Teclis came, and they were cursed with the curse of Cain because Anarion drew the sword, so it affected his entire bloodline and the elves as a whole, essentially.
So basically, from Anarion now you have Malekith or Malarian, who in the Age of Sigmar, and and now you have Teclis and Tyrion. So from this one Phoenix King, you have 3 gods in the Age of Sigmar that were produced.
I mean, no, you could say 4 because he had to produce the line that led to Alariel as well.
True. Yeah.
Anarion's important.
Yeah.
He's very important.
Anarion's very important. And Anarion, after he dies, returning the Sword of Cain, just kind of passes from the world. You don't hear anything more about him. I mean, this is going way back. Yeah. So if we fast forward now, the brightest soul back in Slanesh's belly with Morathi, she recognizes this soul for a second. And it actually gives me a little bit of goosebumps, even just thinking about this, and for a brief second, she realizes who that soul belongs to, and she hesitates for just a second. And in that second, that soul, Anarion essentially turns into a sword. He's enraged by the fact that she is consuming these elven kings of old, and he winds up essentially splitting.
Here, I'll actually read it from the book because it's like you get goosebumps if you know about the elf lore. You get goosebumps. On the threshold of her ascension, Morathi hesitated. This being she once shared a closeness with that her cruel heart had never experienced before or since. It was a moment of weakness that would cost her dearly. The king soul, filled with the rage of slaughter of its kin, became a sword of fire and blood, a blazing brand that hewed straight through Morathi's soul, sundering her to the very core of her being. So, and she split.
And so that's basically what splits her. And if you look at the War Scroll and you look at how what happens after she comes out, so you have the 2 models, whereas before she would transform into this Shadow Queen when she was enraged, and that was her form as she kind of crawled out of Slaanesh the first time.
The Shadow Queen form, was her real form. That was her true form after being in Slaanesh. So she retreats out. What's
fascinating to me is that soul, Anarion's soul, didn't leave Slaanesh. It is still in there.
Well,
so
we didn't see it go anywhere. There is something that escapes Slaanesh.
Yes.
So as Morathi's
on her way out. So I'll let you take it from here.
Okay. So as Morathi's fleeing, as she's been cut by this blade of fire and blood, she's retreating back out. Slaanesh, I guess, burps up they call it a primordial essence that follows her through the portal, shoots across the sky of Ulgul out of this portal, and the Slaanesh followers see it and go, "Yep, that's what we're here for," and just follow it and leave. And Morathi comes out, forever changed. But before we get to the after effect of this ascension, I want to talk more. There's so much. I'm sorry.
First off, I'd like to say I feel like since the Daughters of Cain were first introduced, ever since then, it's like Slaanesh has just been like a giant soul Costco.
Yeah.
We're running low on souls. Should we? All right, I'll run down to the Slaanesh.
Yeah. Well, this was Fire Cell at the Slaanesh Walmart going out of business. Let's say that. Let's see. I'm gonna go over my notes. I'll probably ramble back and forth through here, but please jump in as you can. Matt and Dave, I apologize. I know you guys are not. Matt, you're becoming the staunch elf fan, and I applaud you for it. But I know you probably won't know all the old history. So, but Neil, jump in anytime you see here because I know you're. We were old high elves of heart, long ago.
Old Phoenix Kings, if you will.
Yes.
I don't know. Phoenix Kings don't sell their armies. I mean,
Well, they're dead
Neil's
now.
more of a Phoenix jester, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
They were consumed by Slanesh.
So, let's go through this one by one. So, Morathi goes in. She's looking for the Phoenix Kings of old because even though that they walked through the flame of Asuryan with protection, they were still granted a piece of Asuryan's divine power. So that's what she's sensing. She knows that there's power of the old gods in Slanesh attached to these souls. That's why she's going after the Phoenix King specifically. She may eat some other souls. Maybe there was a few other like lesser elven deities in there that she ate. I don't know. They don't really mention that. I could see that for sure. But she's crushing the Phoenix Kings because like you said, they're fighting back. They turn into eagles and spears and swords of sun. Look like the sun, which that's all old high elf imagery through and through. So we can safely assume all of the old Phoenix Kings, except for one, are dead. Morathi has absorbed Asuryan's power, which is so ironic because she did the opposite of what Anarian did. She took the power of Cain, and then she took the power of Asuryan. And also, like, the whole imagery, too. Like, she walks into the cauldron of blood, her huge cauldron, which is smoking and billowing, and to get to this portal. That's the same imagery as walking through the flame of Asuryan. She's doing that in reverse. She is walking into blood to take the flame as opposed to walking into flame and eventually taking the blood. That's what Anarian did.
If I could jump in for a second.
Yes.
So whoever wrote this, to be able to take all this lore from, we're talking way back stuff, and put this together. I mean, to me, it almost felt like, Marvel's, like the last Avengers, right? Like every thing just kind of coming together all at once. It's just like
I know,
mind blown. Like this guy was able to make all this work together. So.
I assume this was Phil Kelly, and kudos to him. Like he knows his stuff for sure.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, like this, and this is one page. This is one page, and I have a page, and I have more notes on this one page than was written in this one page.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because there's like just touching these old elf characters, even like without technically naming them, just opens up this huge can of worms in such a delightful way. So yeah, so we have the imagery where Morathi is walking essentially her own flame of Asuryan, but it's through blood. It's reminiscent of that exactly, and I just love the imagery and thinking that she's doing Anarian's thing in reverse. So, and it's very obviously the soul that splits her is Anarian because he had the flame of Asuryan in him and he had the curse of Cain in him. So fire and blood, that's Asuryan and Cain. That's what split Morathi in two. And we should say that when Morathi is in taking these souls, which she uses the lantern to attract these souls, that's why the lantern was so important. She's in her Shadow Queen form. She's in her snake form. So, couple things here. I feel that Anarian's soul, and possibly even the Phoenix Kings, but they could probably survive without being corrupted, especially Anarian. I would not see him being corrupted by being in Slanesh. I see it not being pleasant, but I see him still being whole. So he would not recognize Morathi probably fully in this form. So I see two ways about it, and it's kind of like you can kind of pick your own adventure based upon what you feel. So one is he doesn't recognize her. He is upset, like the page says, about his fellow kings dying. So he tries to slay the beast, and that causes the split. I see this as another way because I'm going to be a eternal optimist. I see this as maybe not a final gift, because we don't know what happens to Anarian's soul after this. Does it stay in Slanesh? Does it go somewhere else? It's not mentioned. It's not eaten. But I see this as Anarian recognizing Morathi, recognizing what has happened to Morathi, and this is like his last gift to her in essence, where he is able to split what he feels is her true form, which is the small version, from the monster form, which is the Shadow Queen version. I feel this is him splitting it, that this will set up for, let's go 30 years down the road. All right, follow me along, guys. We have the end times, mortal realms, and Morathi is finally, she's a god, but she's finally able to get rid of the part she doesn't like, which is the Shadow Queen. She hates being in that form, otherwise she wouldn't have transformed. So I see this truly as like Anarian giving her the gift of actually being able to separate her from the part she doesn't like.
I think her intention was, though, as she went in there, like her intention was to separate herself from that, and to just be this, because it mentions at one point in the story, she's going to become this image of a goddess, the perfect goddess, right? So I think that's what her intention was to come out whole and have removed the Shadow Queen. But whether that was a possibility or not, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the model exists, so it wasn't a possibility, but I think they handled it in a way that allows us to separate us from the true facts of the model. Yeah, I just love this. This one page had so much, and not to mention, this lantern attracts. It feels like they don't say it, but like I think it attracts pretty much all the souls. Like I think Slaanesh is probably pretty empty now. At this point. And Morathi's only taking the ones she cares about. So it's all these lesser souls. And let's talk about before the end times, Morathi would see like we have Eltharion back in the realms. Eltharion would be a lesser soul to her. Like what she sees as a lesser soul is not what we see as a lesser soul. Like, let's be clear. So if all the elf souls are here, like, and she comes out with them in this lantern, which is broken and dimmed, but not unblemished. So I guess we'll get to that part of it here in a second. So Morathi steps out. She's one soul, two bodies. Volturnus is there. He actually swings his sword and cracks the Mother Cauldron, and right as this ascension's happening, so Morathi comes out. She's a goddess. Like it worked. She's covered head to toe in blood, but she's like radiant. Like I love the way that it was like, boy did they describe it well. And she pretty much bats aside. There's another Killian King. He's from the Axian Enclave. He just bats it aside. She just bat. What's that?
I think his name's Nemeter.
Nemeter, yeah. He goes to attack small Morathi. The Shadow Queen's there, and Volturnus sees this, like, as Morathi moves, the Shadow Queen moves in perfect unison. The Shadow Queen just bats the Killian King aside, dismounts him, and shatters the back of his mount. Like, holy crap! Like, don't attack me, I'm a god. And instead of fighting, Morathi offers him the lantern with all these lesser souls, and says, "Hey, I did what I did for a reason. I succeeded. We have no need to fight. Let me give you this as a peace offering. It's what you wanted anyway." Volturnus, being a smart guy, says, "Okay, I'm not going to fight a goddess. I got what I came for. Honor's done." And he departs. But I want to jump back. Sorry, go ahead.
So when she is proposing this too, and she proposes it in such a way that says, I've always been, basically saying we've always been outcasts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You've been outcasts. I've been outcast. So it makes sense that we, it's almost like she's proposing like you need to worship me too, kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And we need to work together from here on out, right? So as this new sect of elves, So
yeah,
and I think it is important because I'm looking at the text here. It specifically indicates that she was fishing for the oldest souls that were in Slaanesh, because these are the spirits of the Sithai. So Volturnus is the last of the Sithai, and now he's holding his buddies in his hand.
Well, see, and like I said, that's the point I'm gonna get to. Like, is he holding his buddies? Yes, but his buddies, these souls. Like, what is a lesser soul to Morathi before she became a god? So, if all the souls were pulled out, like we know that obviously Teclis, Tyrion, like all the elves can remake elves and souls. Like Altharian's back in essence. He's kind of broken because he got hand dusted pretty well back in the end times. But for all intents and purposes, that's Altharian. So what if there's the souls that weren't traumatized, that were in here, that somehow escaped being super changed by Slaanesh while it was in the Gauntlet? Like, what named elf characters could come back? Like, we have the Wood Elves, we have the Dark Elves, we have the High Elves of old. Like, anyone could come back technically, because like, except for the Phoenix Kings. Like Anarian, if Anarian comes back too, like, and that I love that whole part too, where we don't know what happens to him, because back in the end times when the vortex was being unraveled, all the Phoenix Kings came to fight except for Anarian because he bowed to no one. So it's the same sort of thing. Like, Anarian's going to come back and do what he wants if he chooses to. He owes nobody. He owes nothing to anybody.
Yeah. I mean, if he comes back and you've got, Teclis and Tyrion and Malarian running around, it's like, hey, Daddy's home.
Oh yeah. If you want to go like 30 years in the future, end times, I'd say Anarian comes back and he's the one that unites the elves again, because he's the only thing that could unite all these gods. Is because he could become more powerful. But regardless, like, that's a pipe dream, and boy, is it fun to think about. So
yeah.
So go bring out your old elf books from Warhammer Fantasy and look at the like Caradria and Core Hill. Even like maybe named characters that didn't really get like full, like, I guess War Scrolls, whatever it was called back then, but rules. But like, they could all come back now, and that's exciting and scary because there's a lot of them. And what will Returnus do? Like, if he has like tons of souls, can he heal his race now? Could he heal them to Marty? I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, who knows? Like, it's I don't know. Like, just, and Morathi just hands it over. She's like, I don't want these. So like, who knows? And like, not to mention, like, he could, if Volturnus finds a soul that he knows Teclis would like, that's a huge bargaining chip, because obviously Teclis tried so hard to bring back Altharian when he found the fragments of his soul and put it back together. Like, what if he found a friend of Teclis? What if, like, he could get almost whatever he wanted from Teclis?
Well, I think this is interesting too. Is in this story they also talk about how the IDK are still terrified that Teclis is going to just swoop in and try and destroy them. They have no idea that he's basically stayed his hand and he's not going to do that. But they are still operating under the assumption that is very much a real possibility and will happen should Teclis ever find them. Right. So,
Yeah, and like I said, there could have been tons of souls that just escaped as well. Like, we don't know, but like, it's just cool to think about that. Like, at this point, as far as an elf fan, any of these characters come back, and I think they're handling these characters returning in such great ways, because you don't need to really know their history, but if you do, you just get more satisfaction out of them coming back. But they don't need to. Like they don't need to shove fan service down everywhere. But like, I like it when it does pop up for sure. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Morathi's her goal. She achieved her goal. She is now a god, on par with Alariel and Teclis, Tyrion, Malarian, Sigmar. Like, she's
not based on the War Scrolls.
Based on the War Scrolls, she's
a step above.
Yeah, she got the good score.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that will. So, Matt and Dave, I know you guys have been quiet because I can't shut up about this stuff. What do you think? Like, what do you think the implications are? Like, Morathi's god now. Like, what do you think of this section? Like, give me some thoughts, please.
Well, so I'm gonna. I think it's a good place to talk about, to jump ahead a little bit.
Okay.
About the prophecy.
Oh, the Slaanesh prophecy?
Yeah.
Please, yeah, I haven't really touched that probably well enough. Please go over that.
So this, so both as, a D&D player, and someone that has followed, maybe not the old world, but certainly in 40K, it's a very similar sounding drum.
And you're friends with me, so you've heard me talk about this stuff
Right.
plenty of times.
I'm wondering if they framed this book as almost like a red herring to sound like this is what the entire prophecy is just this book.
Mm.
And instead, the prophecy is actually going to be the entire Broken Realms.
Do you have the prophecy up by chance? I think it's
Not
on the.
offhand.
I do.
Would you be so kind as to actually read it? Like, I think that'd be useful here.
The entirety of it?
Yeah, go for it.
Twice.
All right. Okay.
In a fun voice.
Kermit the Frog. No, I'm not going to read it as Kermit. Okay. The Dark Prince stirs, squirming against his twilight bonds. The sweet song of his faithful echoes from all corners of reality. With every shriek of agony and howl of trembling exultation, his power swells beyond the ken of his dull-witted jailers. One by one, the god chains are sundered, each fractured link concealed by the prince's impenetrable illusions. In their arrogant self-certainty, the elf lords failed to grasp what is coming. To the Prince of Perfection, a progeny shall be born. The screams of shackled lightning shall herald its coming. The bitter oaths of the betrayed shall be its birth song. All will be decided before the walls of the great deceiver's fortress. The oceans will churn, the shadows will writhe. When the serpent's head splits in two beneath the glare of a crimson moon, then shall the newborn one come forth. At the zenith of exultation, it shall slither from the belly of its father, and the realms themselves shall quiver to witness its glittering magnificence. That's the prophecy of parturition, as recounted by the Slaneshi herald Flavius Sinhart.
Right.
By the Slaneshi, Doug.
Slaneshi Doug. Good old Doug.
Good old whip me more Doug. That's
But yeah, this prophecy within this book has come true. The serpent, Morathi, was split, and then this essence escaped Slanesh and has come out to birth this new thing.
And I'm interested to see where they go with that. I assume that it's basically just going to be the reincarnate of Slanesh or something of that ilk.
So actually, there was one of the Warhammer community articles pushed it to be that as well. But I mean, we also know that the Warhammer community articles sometimes are written with limited knowledge.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, is it the newborn Slanesh? Is it just like a powerful champion? Like, I'm curious too.
I wonder.
I mean, if we take a step back, not to kind of break the fourth wall here, but with with Games Workshop's efforts to try and add more diversity, like more female characters and stuff like that, this might be their way of trying to actually flip Slanesh into a female figure, so it's no longer the prince or the prince.
No, I don't see it because I mean they refer to him as the prince, but like if you look at all the Slanesh models they've done, it's very androgynous. It's split. One side's male, one side's female. I see Slanesh as the same way. Like if you can even understand it, you know what I mean?
I do too, but again, just like before, whenever during the Realm Gate Wars, all the books said that the Stormcast armor was all the same way, and there were men and women under the armor. You just couldn't tell who they were, and even from there, we saw them go,
shift. Okay,
well, let's actually have female models. So I mean, I wouldn't discount it.
Here's the only thing I would say why I think it's not truly the rebirth of Slanesh. I think it's obviously part of Slanesh. It's probably like, but it's not Slanesh because I don't think we would ever see the Chaos Gods truly enter the mortal realms. And right now, this primordial essence is in the mortal realms. If Slanesh appeared within the mortal realms, that realm's screwed hard.
Well, I mean, this could be like...
Is that just because it's Slanesh?
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. No, just like a Chaos God would just... Like, a Chaos God's probably more powerful than all of the other gods put together right now. I mean,
yeah. Well, I'm wondering if maybe more like So like Nagash to the model Nagash, because the model's supposed to be what, a fragment of Nagash or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's how I kind of see the gods, like a
So
yeah,
I'm wondering if maybe this is that, and it's going to be a way to get kind of
maybe.
a a, a hair of Slanesh on the table.
I could
So
I could see that. Yeah.
I think if you listen to that prophecy too, he's talking about how dull-witted they are, and I mean, what if that? I think everybody is sitting here expecting Slanesh to break free from these chains and Hulk out at some point, like Slanesh, I'm free. But wouldn't it be more subtle that he's already escaped? Right? He's been
Mm-hmm.
so weakened by this, by being imprisoned here, that he takes this small essence of himself, shoots it out, and is essentially regrowing outside. Meanwhile, these elves still think, aha, we have Slanesh here, but now that's no longer really the vessel anymore.
Yeah,
It's
it's
now this
just
new
like
thing.
Piccolo from Dragon Ball.
Like he's out. He's out, but he's not. But they think,
Right.
oh, we still got this Slanesh locked up here in the chains. Like, no, you don't. That's no longer the main, the main part anymore.
Yeah.
Then maybe that's where the big deception comes from, is that that's the way out. That's why the prophecy's quote unquote fulfilled. I'm curious to see, and still to your guys' point, I think you can still definitely, maybe even have that model on the table, and still, like, as Slanesh starting to gain power, it's this avatar, it's this, whatever, it's this very weakened form of Slanesh that now has to regrow, and at that kind of level, you can be in the mortal realms and still not be this, the level that, like, Corn, stomping through,
Right.
wherever, there is some, if you look back into like the Age of Myth and into some of the lore about the Chaos Gods in the mortal realms, there has been little snippets of like Corn taking an axe and cleaving like a mountain in two. When back in the Age of Myth, when there was a particular force that was, resisting him,
Right.
really well. Like, he just, okay, here I come. That's enough of you. So
Yeah.
and like he somehow manifests there for a second and just wreaks havoc. So there is some, I guess, history there that could kind of point to the Chaos Gods somehow entering into the mortal realms. But
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see for sure. But I hope hopefully we'll get answers to some of this stuff by the end of, like, not everything. I don't want answers to everything, but I want some satisfying answers by the end of the Broken Realms for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know how long the arc is? How many books we're expecting to see?
They have not said no.
I'm looking forward to however many come. If they're anything close to this, like, I will take 75% of this and be delighted every time.
Yeah. Like I said, this
it's
book,
money well spent. Like,
this book is the book for me with the armies I play, but I'm buying every book that they release. I don't care about the rules. I care about the story immensely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal.
But
sorry, one of the things about some of the detraction from AOS you hear, through the community too, is especially the community, like, people who also play 40K. Well, the lore isn't, up to par with 40K, and it's not. I mean, you're talking years and years and years of 40K lore and everything. But when you start putting these types of books together and really pushing the lore forward the way they are, it makes you, like, to me, this is reinvigorating. In this year of COVID, where we haven't had a whole ton to look forward to and everything else. Now we have this that's just building the lore out to a point where I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, I want to dive in. I want to model some armies. Like, I can't wait to see where the story's going. It's kind of getting those juices flowing again. So, I mean, if every one of these books that comes out, there's the potential for creativity and for engagement with the hobby, I think, is just what we need right now.
So, and I also think, just from the perspective of me, the reader, who, again, I don't know this old lore. I don't know the elves and named characters and all that stuff. But I look at this and it sets up enough of a hook to say, you know what, that Ideneth Deepkin book, like, reading their lore, that would be a really good read. I should get that battle tome. And oh my God, the Daughters of Cain, this is phenomenal. Like, I love that spirit of Morathi and how she's working the system here. This is phenomenal. Like, I want now to get every one of these armies. And my wallet is here screaming. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but like,
Yeah.
It's really phenomenal. But again, this book is written so that if you don't have those books and you don't have any interest in getting those books, this is a taste. Like, this is the appetizer for every one of those armies. And you've got enough appetizers, it makes a whole meal. And there's meal here as well. Like, it's not just these little flavor bits. It's phenomenal the way they've done it, and it really is engaging on so many levels. Here's this story flowing through, here's this background on all these different things. This is a home run. It's a grand slam. It's that bottom of the ninth, we were down by 3 runs grand slam that everybody dreams of.
Right. And we're saying this, we haven't finished this book yet. We still have one more act to go. and yeah. All right, so we get to Act 3, Anvilgard in Darkness. So we actually return to Van Brecht, our Anvil Heldenhammer friend. He made it back to Azir, gave the message to Sigmar, and then was sent to Anvilgard, which is where the Anvil Heldenhammer, that's where their Stormkeep's at. Because there's lots of corruption going on, and he's kind of being sent there to help weed it out. So he's sent down, and he's a Lord Castellan, so he has the lantern to shine light upon evil. So like they're capturing people, he's shining light on them, like he's driving them mad, like he's being very like
Is it Lord?
Is it Veritant?
Veritant.
Oh, I'm sorry. Apologies.
Yes. Because at some point he's talking with the Castellan, and the Castellan is the one in charge of defending the city, and he's the one in charge of...
Yeah, he's the super cool model.
That nobody plays. Yeah, you never see a Veritan out there. Yeah.
Listen, that's a free D3 mortal wounds to a wizard, all right?
Yep. Okay, yeah, sorry. Got my Stormcast mixed up there. Regardless,
Come on, he's a stenographer. You know this.
No, Listen, the reason I do Stormcast Strong is I couldn't think of a cool way to spin Daughters of Cain into some thing. So
he's a Lord Bailiff.
So, I mean, I think we've all obviously read this, but like he's being very heavy-handed in trying to find this corruption. He's not being nice about it, and I assume that's probably because one, just what he just went, like. He's a Stormcast. He's lived for thousands of years, or however long it's been. He's probably kind of fed up. He's like, just find it and move on. And two, the Anvils of Heldenhammer, I'm pretty sure probably aren't up to full fighting force because a lot of their souls are probably inside those war shrines, back in the 8 points still. So I'm sure there's some stress about that going on, for sure.
Well, also he's dealing with probably the most corrupt free city.
Yeah,
as well. So I mean, it's maybe the one out in was it the Realm of Metal, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad through there. Just all the subterfuge, and we got people getting brainwashed and controlled by magic and all this stuff. And you're talking like some pretty good organized crime stuff going on there.
But he does come away with one name. The organization, the Black Scale Coil, is what he keeps being pointed back to. And actually, and as he finally gets to this point, a ship arrives in the harbor with none other than Morathi on it, and not Morathi in the Shadow Queen. It's just Morathi, but he can tell there's something different about her. She's radiant. She's walking in like a conqueror, not a dignitary that's just visiting. She comes into this place and everyone's like, "Oh, thank you, Morathi, you're here," because she's gonna figure out what's going on finally. If anyone can figure out what's wrong with the city, it's her. Boy, were they wrong. So the Black Scale Coil were reporting to Morathi this whole time, and she was simply known as the Sovereign. And there was a specific sorceress, Drusa Kraith, which is the box set. So she's a sorceress on Black Dragon. She begins to play a part here because after Morathi arrives and Van Brecht's there, this fog creeps into the city, and then people start dying, and like the sounds of battles, and they're not sure what's going on. Is it are we being attacked by like Skaven or what what the heck's going on? They don't know. And then finally starts coming out that there's these. It looks like the city is attacking itself. So you got these dark shards, these dread spears, capturing these places, and it's all kind of under cover of this fog. So like the city's falling without anyone really understanding what's going on to raise a true defense. And like I said, Morathi's fought all this through. So when they finally decide to be like, okay, just let loose, that's when the Daughters of Cain come out in force. And I want to say too, I'm proud because I had moved the Teyrathian temple to be near Anvilgard, and they had a temple in Anvilgard, so I see possibly Teyrathi joining in on this fun. So there'll be some fun lore written about my OC here soon. I'm thinking. Yeah, never shut up about it. But yeah, so the Daughters of Cain are unleashed. So if you're not quote unquote a dark elf, for lack of a better way to describe it, you're being killed unless you're a Stormcast. Like, Morathi thought of everything. The Stormcast aren't being killed; they're being poisoned and paralyzed and frozen in ways that they're not dying. Because if a single one of them would die and go back to Azir, they'd be like, "Hey, Sigmar, Morathi's taking Anvilgard," and he would not. I think
kindly to that.
Yeah, he would do some stuff. He would probably throw every chamber. He'd open like 5 chambers. He'd be mashing that button quicker than anything else.
He'd just hold it down,
But yeah, so it's eventually the Stormkeep where the anvils are surrounded, and there's one last hope essentially at this point, and it's Van Brecht. Matt, I'm sure you probably remember his name. There was a Warden King and some humans.
Geez. There's no way I'm remembering names, but
Dave
Matlow Lorixson.
Matlow Lorixson. So they make this.
I was on the page.
Oh, perfect. So they make this. They make this attempt to go get to one of these like cog steam war machines that they have.
Old fire snout.
Old fire snout. And like it's talked up that this thing can wreck armies on its own. And of course, like Assassins, it's not going to kill all the crew, but they didn't damage it from what they could tell. So they sneak through these sewers, and this is such a cool concept that instead of going down and fighting dwarves and Stormcast in sewers, like they just put Charybdises down there and be like, you kill those dwarves. We're not going down there. Screw that. Here's monsters.
Here's monsters.
But they get to Old Fire Snout, they activate it, and they start coming up towards the Stormkeep that's surrounded. And at this point, like it's fully like out there. Like the elves are saying, or the Blackscale Coil, whatever you want to call it, Morathi's followers, they're carrying banners of Anvilgard with the symbol on it, but scratched out, and they're saying the city has fallen, Anvilgard's no more. We are now Har Quran, and it's a dark elf city as far as like rules and lore goes. Like this is like the old dark elf cities. They've taken it, it's theirs. But as this monstrosity's walking up to, and it probably could have wrecked all those elves there around the Stormkeep, the Shadow Queen finally reveals herself, because Morathi's just been walking around as like just her small self. So I don't know how they, is she in a Pokeball, or is she like just hiding in the ship? I'm guessing these two bodies can act separately, obviously, because the rules they can, and be far apart. But the Shadow Queen appears and just tears apart this thing like it's rotten fruit. And it's like it'd be like a Godzilla monster movie. It feels like just like ripping off the roofs and just like crushing the people and stabbing like Heartrender through like 4 guys. Like holy cow! Like the Shadow Queen.
I would have appreciated a Godzilla-esque scene of this versus her in her serpent form. Well, her serpent form.
Eventually we're going to get to the point where we have the Shadow Queen and Mecha Shadow Queen fighting. That's
and the 3-headed Shadow Queen.
So once again, Morathi wins. They take the city, all the Anvilgard, or the Anvils of Heldenhammer. They're all taken out without being killed, and then we see Von Brecht. He's the next thing we see, where he's. I think he's on a ship, and he's kind of restrained down. And there's a Corsair talking shit to him. Like
even before that, though.
Oh, what did I miss?
Before it goes, like he actually gets to Morathi, and he brings a sword down that she just blocks just at the right time, and then the Shadow Queen comes down and makes short work of him, but doesn't kill him.
Right. Okay.
And then we go over this. I thought that was interesting that he gets right up in her face, and he gets close, but not close enough.
Yep. Good call out. Yeah, so he's stripped of his armor, of his weapons. There's this Corsair talking smack to him, and then there's ruckus outside, and like there's the other Corsairs on the ship are just being gutted and killed. And this Corsair is just talking smack, and he has a name, but who cares? He's dead. Opens this door. He's pulled out and just eviscerated. Like his bottom of his jaw's missing. Like within 2 seconds, it becomes a Resident Evil film. Like real quick. And then Von Brecht's released, even though he doesn't see, because he's being restrained by some creature, with tentacles, I guess, whatever, an octopus thing.
Hey, there's Lotan.
There's Lotan. We found him.
And he does exactly what Lotan would do.
Yeah.
Dies horribly.
That's horribly. I do like this one bit. When the Corsair's talking smack to Von Brecht pretty much says like, I'm going to kill you. And so as Von Brecht's release walks out and sees like the Corsair like half alive, like he still snaps his neck just to be like, no, I tell the truth. He's like, you don't deserve this mercy. You should sit here and suffer. But I said I'd do it, so snap. And Neil, I'll let you finish what he sees as he comes up out of his cell.
So as he comes up, I believe it's like on the like up towards like a pillar or like a tower or something like this.
Yeah,
he sees.
Were they on a ship or were they just in Anvil Guard? I assume they were on a ship or somewhere far away from Anvil Guard.
Yeah, you couldn't tell really. They didn't give a lot of specifications on the where of it. It almost looked like they were removed from the city to somewhere else.
Like we can at least say that.
Plan. Yeah. Right. And there is a form with that has these bat wings folded around it, and I would implore everybody who owns this book, the original Realm Gate Wars book, the very first one, it was just what was it called, just Age of Sigmar or something, Mighty Battles,
Unending War or something.
If you go flick through there is a drawing of Malarian, and Malarian, if you know enough about him in the end times, fused with his dragon, so he's got these big old horns, and he's got some bat wings going on there, dragon type wings, kind of coming off of his arms and everything else. And they talk about this hand that reaches in, whatever beast is kind of holding this guy up. Basically, this giant hand comes in and just crushes it, right? And if you look at Malarian's hands, he's got like these real long arms that end up like these huge like clawed hands. That was Malarian who came in there and just destroyed those guys to nothing left.
Right.
And so pretty exciting stuff there.
Yeah, even if it's not Malarian, it could very well be an agent of Malarian. This could be like our first hint at whatever the elves are he created, because this creature's wreathed in shadow and has the battling eyes and has red piercing eyes, which that's why Dave made noise to go up. If you're looking at the screen, you can see the image of Malarian, where he's fused with his old dragon, essentially.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I don't necessarily have any interest in collecting the whatever Malarian army turns out to be, but damn if I'm not tired about being cock-teased with it.
Yeah.
Hey, just let me see what you got going on back there.
Yeah, but like I said, this fully goes back to the whole thing where Malarian is never really fooled by his mother anymore, Morathi. He kind of always knows what's up, and if he doesn't interfere, it's because he doesn't care. So he cares enough to mess with Morathi by releasing this Stormcast. Did he release others? Maybe, I don't know, but we'll see. But that's the last we see. Von Brecht is free, and clearly he's going to be kind of like our continuation from story to story, at least into the next one. But I hope we kind of follow him the whole way, because he's becoming a really interesting character.
Malarian, by the way, the Malarian-Morathi relationship is a thing, too. Like this, it was a very messed up relationship. You're talking about, some mommy issues. Just a
Yeah.
very weird dynamic between a Morathi sees and Narian in Malarian, and like that's really the only part of him she likes.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
and
like when in the end times when Tyrion drew the sword of Cain, he was the spitting image of Anarion. Like he became like more like the Anarion that Morathi knew. So like Morathi was hanging out and getting dirty with Tyrion, and Tyrion was cool with it. So like yeah, like I said, Morathi loves Anarion above everything else, and it said that was the only thing she ever loved. It's the only thing she ever will. And that soul's still out there, so we'll see.
I don't know. It sounds like she loves being a god.
Yeah, she does enjoy that. She does enjoy that. But yeah, Narion's the only thing that can still give her pause. So we'll see how that, if that comes back in the future, or if maybe she finally crushed it. I don't think she did, because I think it's you need to have something of weakness for everybody. But yeah, and then the last pages of the book go back to that primordial birth thing out of Slaanesh and like what's going on. And there's tons of Hedonites around it, and they're worshiping, watching it say its first profane words. It's a really cool piece of art. It's on the screen right now. Yeah, and like that's going to be something that's going to play into the future here. And not that you can make much out with this art. It's just a swirling mess of pincers and tongues and magic chaos energy. So
Sounds like a Slaanesh book to me.
But yeah, so before we do our dive into the rules here, what'd you guys think overall? Like, what was your favorite part of the story? Because I know we all went through our overall, but like, what was your favorite part of the story, Matt?
Yeah, like I said, it was whenever it was the Stormcast fight where they realized, uh-oh, we're on no kill mode is on.
Chuckles, I'm in danger.
And then just like danger. And just like the whenever they destroyed the war shrine and decided to like just murder the shit out of Breck just to be like a bloody text message. I mean, I'm surprised I didn't like pin a note on him and then just.
Oh, actually, that was a really interesting thing when Morathi met Von Brecht, because Von Brecht didn't trust Morathi because he's like, why is she here? Like, he thought everything failed back when he was with the whole armies and the 8 points, and it clearly didn't. And she does this. Oh man, it's so good. She goes up to him and says, "I'm glad to see that none of the afflictions your kind get after reforging have taken upon you." Like that's like and everyone gasps because you're not supposed to talk about it. Yeah. And she's just like, "Hey, I'm so happy you're okay and you're not like messed up in the head from being reforged 1,000 times so far." Like, ooh, what a slap in the face.
Mm-hmm. Well, but it also set up the possibility that Van Brecht is sufficiently off his rocker that his allegations against her are completely untrue, which of course they're not, but it sows that seed of doubt in everyone who was listening to his accusations.
Right. Yep, exactly. But anyway, Dave, what was your favorite part?
I actually really loved the tying in the Ideneth. I think that was really a nice masterstroke to say, okay, so that really switched it from Morathi kind of versus the Stormcast and brought in this third party in a really elegant way to say, okay, these guys also want to get after her, and here's a very compelling reason why. I think that was really neat. And being new to their lore, I loved it. It was fantastic.
During the siege of Anvilgard too, like there was a very small part too where I think there's some guys on some docks, and something comes out of the water to attack them too.
That's true.
So it sounds like the Ideneth are right there with her the whole way out. Just some pretty firm allies at this point.
I really don't want to rebase my Ideneth. I'm kidding. I won't do that. Yeah, no, good call out. Neil, what was your favorite part of this?
I think it's pretty obvious at this point. Just listen to my diatribe there. The Anarian making an appearance, it was just, I didn't expect it. I never thought that could have got wrapped into there in any way. It was literally jaw dropping for me. Just putting down that book and texting you immediately,
Yep.
just sheer joy at the even possibility. It was so unreal to me that I had to text you to make sure that I knew. I thought what was happening was actually happening. So,
Yep. And I'll agree with
so,
you wholeheartedly. Page 45, Morathi, what she goes through for her apotheosis is just beautiful. And it's going to stay in my mind, and it perfectly links all this stuff from the old world into this realm fully for me now. Like, I'm so there, and like I'm like, cool. All my prior knowledge is just really reinforcing what I love about this game that doesn't need it for me to love about this game, but it's just making it so much better.
can I say this too? Like, so I was actually a big fan on the tabletop. Now, of course, it didn't play out the way everybody thought it would on the table, but I was a fan of that transformation. Like, oh, I've got this character, and now all of a sudden, boom, Hulk out,
Yeah.
and you replace the character and everything. I thought that was great. And when I first heard, through Warhammer Community about, okay, well, this is actually going to be 2 different War Scrolls, I thought, God, this is going to be some kind of stretch just to make this happen on the tabletop.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very skeptical. The way they did it, I love it.
Yeah.
Like they took somebody who was going to be very skeptical, and I would have had it kind of set in my mind that I was not going to like this. And then I read through it, and I was just like, nope, that is great. I mean, had they done it any other way, I don't know if I'd have stayed skeptical of it.
Right.
But just amazing the way they did it.
Yeah, and I have to say too, like, having played Morathi since she was released, and, being not, I won't say I'm not definitely not an OG Dark Elf player. I was a High Elf player, but I was an OG Daughters of Cain player. And the thing that was the problem with Morathi's War Scroll is I either, based upon the meta in my list, I either kept her small pretty much the entire game and trying to keep her alive, or turn 1, transform her and go. Very rarely was I using both of her scrolls in the game at any given time. It was kind of always one or the other. So now I get both, and I'm thrilled with it. But
Do we want to go into the rules at this point and kind of transition there?
Yeah, we'll transition over there. We won't go super deep. Like I said, I think Warhammer Weekly did an excellent job of the rules, as well did the Facehammer guys. So check out both of those if you want to get real in depth of the rules. But we do get obviously there's a bunch of narrative campaign things throughout this book too, like scenarios. So if you want to replay everything that happened in this book, which I do because I have all these armies, I would love it. So when you guys want to come over and pick an army, we can do this.
Right.
Or I'll just do it by myself. But we get some Realm of Battles. So we get the Heliflux and Ulgu, Charwin Coast and Akshi, and Varanthrax's Maw in the 8 points. So we get, and these are Realmscape features, magic, command abilities, and artifacts. And yeah, there's a little bit of issue online. People were like, "Oh, should we use these in match play?" And the one issue I'd say is you can't expect everybody to buy every book, and this might be a book that people might skip. But looking at what we've done running Nova, when I put in Realm abilities, I put it in the pack. So if you're going to do that, cool. I have no problem with it, even though it says it should be narrative only. Like, these aren't breaking anything. They're just like, come on, guys, chill. You know what I mean? But like, I do think it's something you need to like make available if you're going to put it in your packs. But I like them. They're fun. They're not breaking anything. Just scrolling down past here through all the battle plans on my side here.
I will say there's one question that I have. So like, from all those boxes that they released, what were they? From the like how they had the Chaos Chariots, they had the Van Brecht Black Watch,
Right? Yeah.
Grey Shadow Pack. I don't see the rules for the chariots. Am I missing them?
There's I believe in the Battle Tome updates. We'll go through it. We'll get there. Don't worry.
It's the last battalion.
Yeah, it's just one battalion.
So they didn't change the chariots themselves. They added a battalion.
Right.
Okay.
So the biggest changes are for the Daughters of Cain. Morathi's on the cover, so we can expect that. There's the new temple, Xanthar Kai, which is Morathi's chosen. They each have drops of blood, of Cain's blood, directly in them. I think that's lore. But it's definitely like themed to be the Melusai and Canari sort of temple, and it looks like it's gonna hit pretty hard. I haven't got a chance to try it on the table since these rules have been out, but I'm excited to do so. Once I get the Shadow and Pain stuff built, because then I'll be able to run a full Snake Canari army with the Shadow Queen.
Sounds like you might want to make sure if you're playing the Daughters of Cain that your bravery is high.
Oh, don't! It's so easy to get that high. It's so easy to
have high bravery against them, or you're gonna be in a world of trouble.
Yeah, make sure you can beat a 10. Because worst case, the Shadow Queen's gonna get Mind Razor on her, and she's a 10. But yeah, I'm excited for this temple. More temples are just always fun. So like, I've played them all before, even though Kraith is my favorite. But I'm gonna definitely give this one a go. I'm gonna go on record here. There is a movement to call this Cobra Kai, and it cannot be stopped. Nor am I trying to stop it. But I at least want to put this out there. I don't like it. And if you like it, cool. You do you. I don't like it. Moving on.
You just don't like it because there's no leg to sweep.
Exactly.
Well, again, remember, you have to remember, Cobra Kai isn't the one that got the legs swept. They're the ones that sweep the legs.
Listen, I don't care. It was a fun movie when I was like 10, and they did some TV show that people think is good. Like, I don't care.
Hey, the TV show is amazing. You watch your mouth. That's fine.
Whatever.
Put him in a body bag, Chuck. Yeah, a body bag. Yeah.
Anyway, there's also some new battalions for the Daughters of Cain, kind of feeding into that whole Canari and Melusai type thing. There's a one that I really like, the Pyrrhic Guard, which gives you Morathi, gives you the Melusai Iron Scale, which is part of the Shadow and Pain box set, the new hero, Bloodwrack Medusas. I think that there's two that we'll see play, and then there's one that is fun, but I don't think I would ever play on the table because you have to kill your own models to keep a model that you don't really care about alive. It's fun. It's thematic. Like, I like it that it's there, but... And then the most important part, Morathi Cain and the Shadow Queen War Scroll updates. We're not going to go beat by beat. I will say I got to play these last Saturday when the book was released. I ran my traditional. I had 2 Hag Queens on Cauldron. I had Slaughter Queen on foot. I had 30 Witch Elves, 10 Witch Elves, and 30 Sisters of Slaughter. And Morathi Cain and the Shadow Queen. That was 2,000 points. And I was playing on Kraith. And boy, does Morathi just make things work. Like, I was being hyper aggressive. Like, I definitely wasn't playing, I guess, the top build you can make for this army, but I buffed up the Shadow Queen, sent her forward to get in the enemy's army's way, and then I just slowly moved up and took both games with relative ease. Is all I'll say. It was an enjoyable experience. Yeah, the new Morathi War Scrolls are exceptional. I think it will do even better once you start doing like a snake list, because the Shadow Queen will buff them up. But yeah, no matter what kind of list you have, like, it's gonna be good. And this actually makes me want to do more of a mixed force ultimately. Like, will I do a snake army? Yes, I'm going to do a snake army, but Morathi Cain will definitely really help the normal, like, Witch Elves and Sisters of Slaughter, and then the Shadow Queen will help the Melusai, and I think the Canari, will help them. So, I mean, you can have a nice mixed force here. So I want to try and figure out what the mixed force will be that I want to run, and I will still play Kraith because it's the best temple.
Now let me ask: with the rule changes, are you going to be putting Morathi on the table more frequently?
I will be, yes. I didn't run her a ton with the old War Scroll. I would bring her on occasion, for some fun, but and actually I was using her a lot in the last couple months for games just because I wanted to get use out of her old scroll because I knew what was coming, but yeah, like she's just too much fun not to have on the table. I think you can still play without her. I don't. You don't need her. Like, but she definitely earns her points for sure.
Do you think you're still in meta wise? Are you still going to see hordes of witch elves at this point with the changes, or you think there's going to be a little bit of change there?
I keep hearing everyone talk about there's going to be definitely more of a push to Snake Army, but I could see it still going either way because the Shadow Queen will buff up one, Morathi Kane will buff up the other ones to good effect. Like I said, it's hard to say. I think there's going to be an influx of new people with this update alone, and they're probably going to go Snake heavy. Snake seems to be a little bit easier to get into because of just less painting, and I think it's probably cheaper overall. But I mean, I'm still going to sorry, I'd like to have a 30 block of Witch Elves, maybe 2. I feel naked if I don't have that, so I think you'll still see... I don't think you'll see the full horde as much anymore. You'll see me do it because I'm a fool, but and I have 200 something. But yeah, I think we'll see more.
Still not 300.
I don't. Here, you buy me 90 more, I'll paint them.
Oh, there it is. There's throwing down the gauntlet.
Well, actually, it's 220. Sorry, I have 220. I mean, if you count Sisters of Slaughter, I'm at 300. Anyway, so we get some Cities of Sigmar, get some new cities, I guess. There's the Kraith's Shadow Host, which is Sorceress on Black Dragon, Dreadspear unit, Dark Shard unit. That's the box you can buy right now. It's fun. I kind of was hoping we'd see a buff to the Sorceress on Black Dragon because it's still a dragon with a 5-up save.
It's still a beautiful model.
It's a stunning model.
I don't care what its rules say. That is a beautiful model.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm going to pick up that model at some point because I realize it's the only elf dragon I have never painted. I've painted every other elf dragon, named and unnamed. I've never painted that one. So
still the old fashioned Trogdor model, huh?
Well, it's the updated plastic version of it.
Trogdor is Trogdor.
I cannot get into cities at any level right now. It's the new rules and everything is I don't know. When I see those models, I see square bases, and there's some love of those old models left in me, but I'm just waiting for the point where they kind of move past them. And you probably heard me kind of rail on this before, but I'm not until I see some free cities that looks just 100% Age of Sigmar, just redone 100%. As long as there's guys running around in ploomy pants, free cities of Sigmar is just not going to do anything for me. And just no. And it is an amazing model. The source, I painted one of those. Mm-hmm. It's a great model, but I just don't think some of those models translate over into the game very well.
Well,
it's a giant note for me.
There's the issue that we have where we're so used to what they were in the old world. It took me a little bit to get over to it, especially when most of the high elf models were cut. But I play the army on occasion because I have a bunch of dark elves, I have a bunch of wood elves, so I made armies. And now that there's Har Quran and it's the old traditional dark elf style lists, because you can bring Daughters of Cain into it. I'll play that for sure.
Listen, if they wouldn't have done the dispossessed dirty in that book, then I don't. It would be a toss-up whether I would have went into Lumineth or not.
Well, so the 2 cities we have now, Misthoven, from Ugu, and Har Quran, which is the new Anvil Guard. Anvil Guard's fallen, Har Quran's here, so. Definitely.
Let me ask about that. So, is Anvil Guard still legal to play in match play?
Yeah. So they mentioned it at the top. So.
No, they're totally sending the police after you.
Oh yeah, taking your models.
They could say this Anvil Guard is no longer eligible for match play.
No, essentially, if you play Anvil Guard rules right now, you're either playing Anvilgard from a different part in history, or you're playing the remnants of the city that did manage to escape somehow.
The survivors.
Yeah, the survivors. Which could be a fun way to convert an army up too, for sure.
Yeah.
Then we get to the Stormcast, which, they get some fun updates. So we see the Storm Keep battle traits, which is nice because they have these keeps in all these major cities. They're not always going to be striking down. They're going to sometimes be walking out the door to go do their fights. So I kind of like it. And it, just like Harkonnen brings in the 1 and 4 units can be Daughters of Cain and part of the army, and cities can bring in a Stormcast 1 and 4. Well, the Storm Keep can bring in a cities unit 1 and 4 to be part of the army, which might be making some shenanigans. But like I said, I'm not going to dive too deep on that rules from our end, I think.
Yeah. And I was, and again, like I said, not to go too deep, but I was glad to see the Judicators finally have some, a little bit of their own identity back. And you have a reason
and
to take
Liberators.
them
Yep.
again. Yeah, that's what I meant. Liberators.
Well, I mean, both really. Like I'm a Warrior Chamber player from the very beginning. I didn't really dive too deep into the other chambers as it came out, so I'm happy that they're here, that we can play them to good effect now. But Neil, you gonna pick up some Stormcast?
I'm probably gonna pick it all up at some point outside of 3 cities. To be honest, I'm a completionist, so yeah, it'll happen at some point.
Gonna go with Anvils of Hammerhalden when you do?
Not a chance.
Yes, you should all play armies that in the lore my army has beaten. Please.
Get no such from me. No.
So some Stormcast battalions, obviously. There's Van Brex. There's a Stormkeep Brotherhood. Then we get some Ideneth updates, which I'm sure your daughter's going to be thrilled with, Neil. And I'm sure you're probably less thrilled because she's going to just decimate you now.
Oh, yeah. Well,
she's going to have an even easier time playing against you.
As I'm kind of teaching her the game and everything, I'm kind of looking at some of the Shark War Scroll, and she's got the one with the harpoon on the top, and as it was, I think it was maybe like 3 attacks, 3s, no rend, and 1 damage. And I was just like, well, you could shoot this thing, I guess. So I'm happy to see some rend on it for that's kind of a nice little change right there.
Mm-hmm.
But the nets are going to be incredible. Too bad she doesn't have that. Mm-hmm. But if we make another shark, I think she's going to get some nets on that other shark. That's for sure. So
it's just nice that there's more mount traits, so kind of like bringing in line things that are missing from the IDK books, how old it is.
Mm-hmm.
And Alapexes, like I put nets on mine because I just thought they looked cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a year and a half ago when I did that army. So like when I saw this, I was like, cool, I guessed right apparently. Yeah.
Now nobody will actually care about this that's listening, but as I'm putting apart that battle across the realms, one of the things you can do is you can kind of upgrade your guy with like mount traits. So more mount traits, always better, right?
Yep.
So we can be fun for our little narrative thing going on.
Then the Eidolons, both of them got a nice little update. And I think they got a points decrease as well. Leviathan became very useful. I'm torn. Like I don't have this model. I don't like the model. It never did anything for me.
You're doing it wrong. You're very wrong about that.
It never did anything for me. I saw it. I'm just like, I don't need it.
You've just alienated every single listener you've ever had. So.
You are wrong, and you sit there in your wrongness, and you be wrong.
I will. That's fine. Like I said, this model never did anything for me, surprisingly. But at the same time, I was also kind of bummed that I never saw it played. So now that it will see play, I look forward to cutting it up in tiny pieces for Morathi Kane's glory.
My favorite part about the new rules for these models is that you're going to see like this. I don't care. I hear that opinion, Chuck, but this is one of the best looking armies that you could put on a battlefield.
Yeah,
and
sure.
More of these things out on the battlefield, the better. And if you don't think the Ideneth Deepkin army is not a beautiful army, your opinion is null and void. You don't know what you're talking about. You're wrong in every sense that you can be wrong. Or you no points and may God have mercy on your soul.
Or if you think they don't look good, it's because you're imagining them with Neil's paint job.
Right. That might be.
Ouch, it's a
that
burn.
could definitely be what it is. Yeah.
Shots fired.
Yeah,
Well, I'm gonna help my daughter paint up one of those turtles, so that may be true.
Oh, we'll see. Like I said, it is a beautiful army, and like I said, I don't want to say that this army's or this model's trash. Like it's not. It just doesn't do anything for me. Like I don't have the urge to buy it. I saw that. I'm like, okay, ooh, sharks.
That's fair.
But yeah, like I'm not gonna be displeased by seeing these on the table for sure. It's a lot of good meat and blood to cut up for Kane.
Sea turtles.
And they get of course they get a battalion that ties into their little box set. So you get that, Nematar, the Achillean king whose mount is dead. So have fun with that in your lore, and then a couple sharks.
I'm sure you can get another one.
Yeah, you can go back to the undersea pony stables and
grab another one. and well, at least hopefully he's learned not to charge Morathi. And then we get the idolaters. So this is going to be a chaos sort of allegiance, I suppose.
Specifically, slaves to darkness.
Thank you. There you go. I was looking for that. I'm like, it's something specific. What is it? But yeah, some command traits, some prayers, and this is where Gresh's Iron Reapers. We didn't talk about him during the story because he's just in this part. He drives a chariot, and the chariots are cool models. This, like, I have one in my Slaves of Darkness. Like, yeah, go go buy this box set. You get 3 of the chariots. They're really cool. This battalion, I don't know if it's cool or not, or good or not, but like, who cares? This is cool models. But like in the story, he just kind of was there and then he wasn't. So,
but in the story, I did enjoy the part where he talked about like taking Dracoths down at the knees because they're the blades on the wheels of the chariots were just chopping them at the knees and taking them down.
Oh yeah, I mean they were cutting like if you think of like back to Gladiator, like it was they were chopping like witch elves in half and stuff. Like you remember this? That first fight scene where they, Ooh.
It was good times. Good times.
Yeah.
Not so much for the other people, but for the chariot drivers.
All blood in Cain's name is worthwhile. That's all that matters. We are not corn worshippers. Yeah, and then obviously we get the points. We could go over that, but why? I don't know. Morathi Cain 600 points. That's all that matters.
And you have to run them both.
You have to run them both, and they are 2 drops. But yeah. All in all, this book gets like 1,000 out of 10. I'm so happy. This is the great way to kick off this series of lore. I can't wait to see what the next one brings as far as lore goes. Like, it's gonna be a fun ride, and I just hope people enjoy it.
One thing I'll say too, we kind of didn't touch on this, but just the art in the book too, and the pictures of the models and everything, and kind of the setting of everything in this, it's just it's really good. Really good.
Yeah, like
the picture of that when it's page 96 where you see the Melusai there. I mean, that is just an amazing picture of one of those Melusai. I love it.
Yeah, they've stepped up in every way for this book. Like this is I think I've heard no one complain about what happened in this book, especially on the lore end. So please keep doing this. Please give us more of this, and we'll all be so happy.
I have to say the only detraction I found from it when I was first starting to read it, I felt the first handful of pages there was some stuff that seemed repetitive and almost out of order. But I think a big part of that is to catch up people like myself who don't understand the lore behind any of these armies. And once you get past any hiccups you may perceive there, it flows. It is smooth as silk, and it is a phenomenal storytelling.
Yeah, a lot of good high notes, lots of things to remember, and yeah, like they did right by Morathi. I'm so happy she's a god now. Like no one can get the joke to me. It's like, oh well, she's not a god yet, and it's just like, shut up, she is now. But yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. Matt, do you have any closing thoughts about Broken Realms Morathi before we wrap it up for the night?
Wow, I said it's an amazing start, and I can't wait to see where they go from here.
Dave, what about you?
My closing thought is I don't care what army you play or what armies you play, whether they're in this book or not. This is money well spent on getting a deeper understanding of the story behind the game we all love.
Neil?
I'd say, I've been talking to a friend of mine who plays a lot of 40K, and he's been very 40K focused, and he keeps telling me, it's just like, Age of Sigmar just needs something. Like, it just needs something right now. And this is it. I mean, this is, if you're one of those people who just kind of dabble in AOS, this is the thing that's going to kind of really, I think, ignite us back, get the passions going again. I know it is for me, so go get this book.
And I will end on praise to Morathi Kane. She is the goddess we needed.